2013, 7 o'clock. Kathy, could you call the roll?
Blakely.
Yes.
Gaspar.
Yes.
And Costello.
Here.
Todd.
Here.
Locke.
Yes.
Toombs.
Here.
Drummond.
Yes. Mrs. Locke, will you lead us in the pledge?
Yes, I will. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Dr. Hitchens, do we have any changes to tonight's posted agenda? We do not. Do I have a motion to approve our agenda? So moved. Moved by Blakely, second by Stoops. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none, motion passes. Next, we're going to move right into public comments. If anyone wishes to address the board this evening under public comments, please see our recording secretary, Kathy Scafidi. She'll give you a pink form that has our board policy on it for addressing the board. Please put your full name and address on the form, as we are required by state law to keep a detailed set of minutes for our meetings. If you would prefer to provide comments for the entire board in written form, she has a blue form that you can fill out, and we would all get a copy of that. When you address the Board of Education and Administration will not engage in a dialogue at that time. It doesn't mean we don't take your issues seriously. If you do have unanswered questions, a board member or an administrator will get back to you. If you have any props or visual aids, please have Dr. Hitchens approve them before you use them. And we ask that everyone addresses the board to please come to the microphone so that you can be heard. And we're also requesting that we keep our address to about 3 minutes, seeing how many people we have here tonight that wish to address the board. So I would like to call Gary Rickey to the front. Good evening.
Good evening. Good evening. Thank you for allowing me to speak, and thank you, Dr. Hitchens, Dr. Newkirk, for coming out to Storm School to help us out with that. I wanted to share a story with you guys with regards to some of the stuff that's going on. We moved here 8 years ago. My two daughters started at Storm. When my oldest daughter, Bella, was in 3rd grade, we visited Mayor Schilke at the government office. And he explained to us that the 3rd grade class would be the first freshman to take classes in the new $60 million high school renovation. And he also went on to explain that the investment like that would change our community and it would raise our home values. And funny, I was thinking about that and how I just heard that my wife just told me how our homes just went down again. And since we moved here, our taxes have doubled. But that's another story. But last week was Bella's first day in high school, and it was not at the Batavia High School. I was actually able to attend her first day, and it was like nothing I've ever experienced. For starters, there's no air conditioning in this school, in the high school that she's attending. The room where we had the orientation had black cloth draped over the windows to work as makeshift curtains. Some of the ceiling tiles in the classrooms had fallen off. It's not a dirty school in any way, it's just an old school without any frills whatsoever. They don't have homecoming there, they don't have dances, they don't have driver's ed, they have to take that on their own. As we sat there sweating like pigs in the orientation, the principal talked about the meltdowns that would be coming due to the academic pressures that would be coming, and a lot of students had got up and kind of shared some of their stories to kind of help us as parents to be ready for what happens. And that for sure would have been pretty scary had we not gone to the parent association meeting the night before. And I guess I should have known something about the air conditioner because we had to spend most of the time in the alley because it was so hot in there. But despite that, parent after parent kept telling us about how unbelievable this school was and how these kids absolutely loved going there and didn't want to miss a certain day. We were so taken by the exuberance of these parents and talking about the students that on our way home we stopped at Taco Bell and we were up there ordering food, and the cashier actually asked if we were on a first date. How about that for 16 years and 4 kids? We look like we were on a first date. And that was clearly reinforced the next day at the orientation when one of the teachers pointed out a student there that comes all the way from Dixon, Illinois, over a 2-hour commute every day. And he went on to say that she had not missed a single day last year. Another thing the principal mentioned at the orientation was they had just gotten back the ACT scores, and that they had outperformed Illinois by 25% and beat both the state and national averages in every single category.
About another minute.
Okay. But what he emphasized was the good standardized test scores was a byproduct and not the point, but the excellence of teaching and voracious learning. The tagline of this bare bones high school, where every child does everything they can do not to miss a day of school, is art. There's a future in it. And the school is the Chicago Academy for the Arts. So what I wanted to talk about is what I saw in we know that the public schools are a challenge to run, and we know that our own particular school has some challenges right now. Storm has the lowest test scores of all 5 of the elementary schools. And as I looked at the new dividers that were put in for the interventional pods and the computer screens and all the little workstations, and as I'm thinking about all the parents and kind of how they're frustrated trying to figure out how to make things work, and then I saw the principal speak on Wednesday, and I saw all these students hardly able to contain themselves about being at the school, and then I thought about our own community.
We need to wind it up.
And how our neighbors are some of the brightest and well-educated and passionate parents, and how hard they've been emailing and working and trying to help all the parents understand what's going on so that we can better work with the teachers and the board. You guys have a resource in the parents here to which we will do anything to help work this decision. And all we're asking for is to slow down on what seems to be these permanent decisions and to allow us to help you. What we feel we're getting is you're listening, but it seems like everything is just continuing to go down the same path without any kind of changes. And we really want to help out, and we really want to change this and make sure that the decisions are being made for the enrichment of all the children at Storm. And I'm sorry, I just want to add this because I reached out to the principal of the Chicago Academy of Arts, and I asked him if he could share something with us, and he gave me this to deliver to you for your consideration. One of my deep beliefs about the value of arts education is how it gets at all those things that are only just now fashionable in education: mastery, character, leadership, and of course creativity. A student can't fake a recital of Bach or 90 minutes of Shakespeare. A student doesn't decide to make a film on a Friday night and have something worth watching on Saturday morning. And no amount of cramming replaces 6 weeks or 6 months or 6 years at the bar of a dance studio. The investment required by art making teaches incredible lessons. Kids, normal kids, come
Sir,
out of our
we need
school.
to wrap it up. I'm sorry, but we have so many people who want to address. I just don't want to not give everyone a chance.
Having composed operas, choreographed pieces, held gallery openings, you can't tell me that the experience doesn't change their whole world, that it's not more meaningful than some test scores or some percentile. Our kids get into college because of their art, but the arts give them something better. They can look in the mirror at age 20, 40, or 60 and know what it feels like to have challenged their perceptions of their limits in servicing of making something beautiful.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'd like to ask Ellen Hamilton to the table.
Mr. Chairman, may I say one thing? I think we should limit the talks to 10 minutes.
I'm Ellen Hamilton, and I have come to talk about the athletic field and the plans for that. I want to thank you all for serving the children of Batavia and the community at large. I think the school board at the time created the Arboretum. It was a creation of the school system. And it was to be also an educational thing, and was for years. Both for the high school and elementary schools would come there on tree identification and their leaf projects. So it had a purpose educationally. But to get enough trees and things to make it work, the community was requested to bring memorial trees. And when our son died in 1968, he was a sophomore at Batavia High School. His class of 1970 gave a tree in memory of him. My husband and I gave another tree later. And many other people gave trees because it was a wonderful way to honor an individual and to create a lasting gift to the community at large. So I hope that you will seriously think about anything that would change this, because it is important. And the destruction, these trees, because they were planted as saplings, not as seeds, have been there for over 50 years. So their destruction really does have consequences. And I'd just like to close with one personal thing. In 1972, 9 people ran for the school board, and I was one of them. And I happened to get elected. And at the very first meeting I was at, they moved it from the bank in downtown Batavia out to the high school because there were 200 irate citizens cramping the high school. I urge you to listen respectfully. And I would like to point out that decisions the board and the administration makes are cumulative. And so if residents feel they're ignored on one issue, that might be one thing. But be very careful that they don't pile up. Thank you.
Thank you. I'd like to invite Ann Drover to the table.
I've been a Batavia citizen since 1977, and 3 of our children went through the school system. And I just want to thank the school board and all the teachers for directing the children that they can, as they can, toward environmental awareness and assistance. I'm here and have been asked to talk about Tree City, USA. Batavians love their trees. Some even call us a city of trees. In fact, trees have been a big factor to many in decisions to move here to this historic big woods. Back in the 80s, after the Memorial Garden plantings were well underway, the love of trees expanded. Former Alderman Linnea Miller, always valuing stewardship, believed Batavia should become a Tree City, USA. Members in her Batavia Women's Club agreed. What is a Tree City besides a sign as you enter the city limits? Tree City is a designation of the Arbor Day Foundation for cities that meet certain tree specifications, like having tree inventories, creating a tree commission to evaluate and make decisions about the city's trees, and holding annual Arbor Day celebrations in April. Enthusiastic Women's Club members set about helping to fulfill those standards one by one, and it was tough going. Aldermen were concerned about the increased costs, which have indeed occurred. Costs for trees selected, and maintenance and removal, to name a few, but overall minimal expenses. Mayor Schilke realized how annually featuring and teaching about trees and all those new plantings would unmistakably help the image and desirability, not to mention quality, of this town. After his approval, the going became easier. Gradually, other groups and individuals found ways to help. Meanwhile, our Women's Club had devoted ourselves to the management of Arbor Day celebrations. First one was at the Riverwalk, and the next one, the area east of City Hall by the river. A local newspaper reported 200 citizens and 8 dogs. were present at that event, which included distinguished speakers, students' poetry and paintings, and music by the middle school band, with small saplings given to all who came. I wish you could have seen the students' beautiful, sometimes stirring, posters and heard their thoughtful and inspiring poetry about trees. Maybe some of you did. Thanks to the League of Women Voters judges, recognition and small awards could be given to their outstanding work. Still, it took 3 long years to establish a bona fide tree commission, but we became a tree city at last. Thanks, Linnea and lucky Batavia. Our love and reverence for trees is still going strong, or so we thought. Friends, it's unconscionable digging up donated and memorial trees of that beautiful arboretum. Unthinkable, quoted Virginia Babcock, 2010 Citizen of the Year, who shepherded the Tree Commission's formation and was a commissioner their first year. Quote, if citizens realize what would be happening to those beautiful hardwood trees, they would be aghast and infuriated. Quote, unquote. She's right. What a sad commentary to allow such a reversal of stewardship for our tree city, the city of trees. Thank you.
Thank you, Leah. I'd like to invite Richard Benson to the table.
Thank you for giving me a chance to speak tonight. Recently, the school board had released its 2013-14 budget. The budget shows the following for the district. You have beginning opening balances of $21,400,000. Revenues you're projecting are up 4.71% this year over last year at $81,070,000. Your expenditures are up 4.25%, $80,455,000, which leaves you a balance at the end of the year of $22 million. Inflation in the past year has been 1.7% as compared to the 4.7 and the 4.25 I mentioned earlier. Your estimated ending fund balance is 27.39% of your budgeted expenditures in 2013-14. Since this is still below the 30% the state recommends, how can you ever think of committing another $13 million to athletic fields? You are budgeting raising property taxes next year $3,150,000, or about 5.8%. And that may result from the fact that the Outlet Mall in Aurora is in the Batavia School District, and it is coming out of a TIF, which will increase your real estate tax income. The additional tax that the school board is receiving as a result of that TIF expiring should be used, if not to build reserves, then to reduce the real estate tax the rest of us pay and not provide a means to finance a new athletic field at a cost of $13 million. School tax rates have gone from $4.24 in 2002, payable in 2003, to $6.09 in 2012, which we're paying this year. That's a 43.63% increase from 2002. The major portion of that increase, 29.5%, has been from 2009, paid in 2010 to 2012. And of that real estate tax, we pay over 2/3 for the school. The Board of Education said when they built the new high school, there would be no increase in real estate taxes. yet it did raise taxes, and it looks like the board has annual debt service of over $10 million a year. With larger facilities, there are continuing higher operating expenses in running the buildings.
You've been about 3 minutes, so if you could
Yes,
summarize a little for us?
We live in a TIF district, and it's dismaying to look at the real estate tax bill and see that 86% of our bill goes to TIF. What this really means is that this year we actually paid $744 in real estate tax to the school. And if we were not in a TIF, we would have paid $6,562. That's a difference of $5,818. The school is not getting from us. Because of that, everybody's tax bill is higher because they have to make that up. I live down in Waterford, and down there, we paid approximately $145,000 in a TIF last year. I know you're not responsible for the TIF, but you have to agree to it. And then this difference has to be made up with a higher tax rate for everybody else who pays school taxes. And the TIF should serve as a warning to this school board that what they think are improvements may end up causing more damage and costing us more down the road. For example, the assessed value of property on River Street has actually gone down, even though the city spent a big chunk of TIF money on that property. While we realize that education is very important for the younger generation, it behooves the school board to get a sharp pencil and review all expenditures to see where reductions can be made. You have no right to continually raise the taxes you collect without reviewing every item of expense, including the school administrative costs, which are apparently lumped with all other education costs. Many people would love to get only a portion of the pension that the two last superintendents are receiving today. The budget shows an increase in termination benefits, whatever they are, from $174,000 to $452,000, as well as an increase in 18% in benefit costs. Please recognize your responsibility to be a good shepherd of taxpayers' funds and make sure that they are not spent for unnecessary expenditures. In the business world, when things are tight, they find ways to cut costs. You have the benefit of a cash fund, which most businesses would love to have. But remember, these funds came from the hard work and sacrifice of the citizens of Batavia. And we expect you to treat us with respect by listening to us and making wise spending decisions, not rushing through expensive projects that are more want than need. Thank you very much.
Carrie Knott to the table.
Good evening. Thank you, guys. I'll try to keep it to my 3 minutes. I'm a little bit older, but I'll do it quick. Yes, trying to read fast. I'm here to address the board today about a recent decision to install artificial turf on the high school's 2 fields. I'm greatly concerned about the costs that will be incurred, much like the previous speaker, and passed on to the taxpayer. Our taxes keep going up and up, and yet the spending still continues despite the economy. Not long ago, Marmion took a look at artificial turf and decided against it, choosing instead to resod their football field. Cost was the most significant factor in their decision, especially the long-term cost of fields such as these that have been chosen. Artificial turf fields have to be replaced every 8 to 15 years. The more the field is used, the sooner it must be replaced. Most sources say an artificial turf field lasts 8 to 10 years. However, if it's going to be used as often as the Batavia Boosters boast on their website, I believe they said 24/7, 365 days a year, I'm guessing it won't even make 8 years. But for the sake of discussion, let's say the fields last 10 years. For one football field, while the foundation can stay, the carpet must be replaced. And from Marmion's estimates, that will incur a cost of $300,000 to $400,000. Marmion recognized that that would mean budgeting money every year for the inevitable replacement. They did not have that kind of money to spare. Batavia proposes 2 fields, meaning the cost would be $600,000 to $800,000 every 8 to 10 years, which means the school district needs to be putting away $60,000 to $80,000 a year for replacement costs. If this money is not put aside, then our property taxes will be hit even more down the road. Marmion is a private school, and they can charge whatever they want, and yet they still decided the increased cost was too much. But yet when it is the taxpayer who is going to foot the bill, it seems there's no regard for what costs are incurred. As for the initial cost, the Batavia Boosters website lists that they are going to raise money through fundraising and corporate and private sponsors. I'm sorry, but I don't believe that they're going to raise $13 million through fundraising. They're asking $2,000 for advertising, so that would mean 6,500 businesses would have to commit to advertising to make $13 million. Or asking people to sponsor a yard line for $100. Even if everyone in the city of Batavia sponsored a yard line, we would still be $10 million short. We are naive if we believe for 1 second the taxpayer isn't going to take a significant hit by this. The boosters themselves say asking taxpayers to help fund this project may be evaluated in the future. May be evaluated, there'll be no choice but to pass that on to us now. I do not understand how the board can call this a cost savings measure when even cursory research shows how expensive artificial turf is to maintain and replace. The only conclusion I can reasonably come to is that the board relied heavily, if not solely, on the turf manufacturer and the Batavia Boosters for their information. How can one say that artificial turf is less expensive when you look at maintenance, replacement, and disposal costs, not to mention the environmental impact of disposing of the artificial turf in 8 years? Are you planning on cutting groundskeeping personnel as a result of this decision? I'm guessing not, so then where is the savings? Artificial fields are not maintenance-free. They require additional infill, irrigation because of unacceptably high temperatures on warm, sunny days, chemical disinfectants to prevent staph infections and abrasions, drainage repair and maintenance, erasing and repainting temporary lines, and removing organic matter accumulation. Maybe I'm being presumptuous to think the field is going to be maintained in such a way, but I would hope it would be to prolong its life and prevent a possible lawsuit from a staph infection breakout. In closing, I would like to comment on the booster statement that there is no guarantee to prove that property values will increase, but improving the high school facilities will likely attract a home buyer that is willing to pay a bit more for a home. People do not move to an area for a school's facilities. They move to an area because they hope their child will get a better education than they would down the street. And last I checked, artificial turf does not increase ACT scores. Therefore, I respectfully request that the board please reconsider the decision to spend the taxpayers' money unnecessarily. Or how about at least postponing this until the boosters actually raise the $13 million. Thank you for your time.
Did I pronounce it right?
It's Popella, so that's fine.
I'm sorry.
Popella.
Popella. Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Can you say that again? Mike Popella.
Popella, P-O-P-E-L-A.
I don't.
Thank you for letting me speak today. I am the first one that will talk, and thank you very much for your foresight to looking at those athletic fields. I was on the advisory board. I am a representative of Batavia Youth Football. I'm the president of that organization. We have over 500 kids playing football every year on Park District fields that are basically falling apart. The reason that I hold this really in high regard is the community that surrounds the athletic fields at Batavia High School. It's not just a football field. The master plan which you have, which is only a master plan, which I do realize that, it is over 2 years in the making. It's not something that was haphazardly thought out by the advisory committee. We did look at the trees. We did look at water retention. We did look at field space and using what we have there at the high school. The fields and the outdoor facilities are in disrepair. It will cost this school district quite a bit of money just to make them safe, from the stands to everything else around them. There is a cost that is there. The overall vision that we had as a group that puts this together, it came from a variety of different sources. The Park District, the school board, physical education teachers, the band, the POMs. There was a lot of different organizations that did come together to sit down and to try to find a plan that would work for everyone. We did address the Arboretum by moving those trees out to a place where people can go and walk past them so they can see them, with memorial plaques with the person's name on there. That is the walkway that's through there. We hope those athletic fields become a gathering place for Batavia. Any of you who are out at the Corn Boil on Friday, there was an article in yesterday's Kane County Chronicle that showed the community pride that is involved out on those athletic fields. And it is not a football field. It is not a baseball field. Those are pieces of a puzzle. It's a $13 million project. If it never all gets done, it never all gets done. It's a piece-by-piece proposition for the high school to be able to allow them the extension of the classroom. The extension of the classroom is athletics. I went through football. I made it. I really enjoyed playing sports. The kids that are there academically, if you take a look at the representatives of last year's Batavia high school football team, they're all state academic qualifiers. And it's not just one or two. There's 10, 12, 14, 15. Baseball team, track team, okay? Those fields allow the citizens of Batavia to go out there. It's going to be a park district plan, also to use those fields to allow the children and the people to use them. So there's much more I could speak. 3 minutes is certainly not enough. What I do request the board to do is really inform the people, because there's a lot of misinformation that's out there, a lot of single ideas. So again, we try to address everything when we put together those athletic fields. I do thank you for accepting them for what they are, just a master plan, something to go from. When we started, we had no plan. Now we have a plan. It can be changed. As a taxpayer, I don't want to be on the hook for any part of that $13 million. So that's why we're going to try some outside funding. Okay, so that thing's not going to happen tomorrow. It's not going to happen in a couple of years. That's a plan that's there for the future. Thank you for what you do.
Anna Rudick?
Good evening. I'm here to talk to you about Storm School and the arts program. I want to thank Dr. Hitchens for coming to speak to the parents at Storm. In doing that, it became clear that in moving towards the 2014-15 academic year, right now there is no plan that clearly lays out a path to get art and music off the carts and back into dedicated classrooms. And the word vision plan was thrown around quite a bit at the top. And while we might not be able to come up with an elaborate, detailed building sketch or things like that, the Storm parents do have a vision plan, and that vision plan is to have art and music in dedicated classroom space. Dedicated classroom space is important because it facilitates learning outcomes. This is a fact that has been recognized as early as 1995 by the U.S. Department of Education, who in their arts education in public elementary and secondary schools said that a school's commitment to offering quality arts program is evidenced by providing teachers and students with specially equipped classrooms. They've tracked dedicated classroom space since 1995 and have issued semi-regular reports, the most recent of which was published last year in 2012. In that report, where they surveyed over 12,000 elementary schools, they found a steady increase in dedicated classroom space. 82% of comparable elementary schools to HC Storm had dedicated music rooms, and 76% had dedicated art rooms. So the vast majority nationally have these dedicated spaces. In addition, empirical evidence has shown that these dedicated spaces have a significant impact on learning outcome. The most recent was a longitudinal 2-year study of over 200 New York City public schools. In this study, they found a significant impact of actual physical classroom space on learning outcomes, including standardized test scores and later high school graduation rate. They followed the students over the long term. The evidence was so strong that it has become New York State policy recommendation to require adequate classroom space for arts instruction. By not coming up with a plan to move our students back into dedicated classroom space, we are out of step with national trends and placing our children at a disadvantage, particularly the student population that HC Storm serves, which is largely the bilingual language learners who are now being bused to our school. It is these children more more than any others that benefit from the standardized test score bump from arts education. So I hope that we can work collaboratively to move towards better outcomes for all of our students. Thank you.
Thank you. Mary Nijkamp.
Hello. I am Mary Niekamp. I'm also an HCS parent, and I'm going to be addressing the concept of our dedicated classroom space for music and art. How many of us have attended a concert, gone to the movie, turned on the radio, sung in church, sung happy birthday at a party? How many of us have used kitchenware, appliances, homes, cars designed by somebody else? How many of us have watched something on TV that's been a graphic artist design? I could list thousands of things that people do who are using artistic creativity in their everyday life, functioning as professionals or just in daily operation. That is one of the simple experiential ways that I validate the use of arts because of its expression of us as humans. If you say yes to any of the things, you're enjoying somebody's artistic creativity. Artistic is defined as creative, imaginative, inventive, expressive, sensitive, perceptive, and discerning. Which of us wouldn't want to be that or raise a child like that? Arts educations benefit everyone, regardless of race or creed or color or religion. It is true that cognitive development has been empirically, again and again, proven to be very connected with arts education. I myself have been a perfect example, not to be boastful, but I was an advanced placement student from the time I was in second grade. I was asked to skip sixth grade. I had advanced place classes in college, tested out of things in college. I was one of two people in a pre-med college anatomy class who got an A. I was recommended to go in medicine, but that's not my passion. I work as an artist. I work as a musician. Gary Rickey could not have said it better. There is nothing in life that can be learned in the arts quickly. It is a dedication of life process. And I'm not just talking about performing arts. There are many ways that the arts influence us in our everyday life. I believe that I'm a person of character, perseverance, wealth, not money-wise, but in many other respects, because of who I am as an artist. And I receive all kinds of comments at church about how glad they are to sing next to me in church. It's so nice to sing harmony with you. And I've still been studying voice after 30 years. This is a lifetime endeavor. It makes me who I am. I would have died to go to a Chicago school, like Gary's daughter, would have died to. And I still would have out-ACT'd my fellow students because I got one of the highest scores in my school, because intelligence and arts often go hand in hand. When my husband was interviewing for his career as a psychologist, he interviewed many psychologists. There was a 100% correlation between those who are in psychology and also those who are either theater or music people. We have a friend who is a psychologist who works with police officers in Detroit. He just put out a CD of his piano recordings. He's amazing. He's played at Carnegie Hall. This is not by chance. These things go hand in hand. When H.C. Storm says that music and art will not have a dedicated place, they're telling me that they agree those subjects are of lesser value than other subjects in our school, i.e. gym, math, LRC, computers, English writing, and the daycare and ESL programs. But I don't think we can make that presumption. I think that empirically we've proven it's not true, and experientially I've proven that's not true. I agree that it's not an acceptable solution for us to go into the next school year and assume that those can be CART classes. We've been asked to create a vision. I believe Anna Rudick is right. We have a vision. We want the most and not the least in the arts education for our children at every level. I voted for that Batavia High School Fine Arts, and I don't even have a kid in high school because I know how necessary it is. I'd rather see my taxes go up for a good purpose than for a wasteful one. So as a professional, I strive for excellence. Why would I strive for the least in the arts education of my children who are showing the same proclivities as me, as artistic people? So it matters to me that they have the same advantages that I had. I don't believe these are specials. These are critical and crucial. I see 4 primary interventions, and this is my summary. We can change the mandates of the law so that H.C. Storm, which doesn't have space, doesn't have to house things they don't have space for, and still allow dedication rooms for those classes that we want to offer. We could grow our building in a temporary way, or we could grow it in a long-term way. We need roof repairs, we could possibly add on to the building. I see that as a very useful way of funds for grassroots building of arts education in our grade schools. We could also ask that other subjects be asked to make a sacrifice here if this is a longer-term problem for bubble years, where other classes then after this year are asked to go to carts and not just always art and music. I think that would also say, hey, you're not the only ones making the sacrifice. If this sounds ludicrous, then think about how ludicrous it is to ask only art and music to make that sacrifice when we've already proven the value of them. I challenge any of you to stop listening to the radio, stop watching movies, stop going to concerts, stop using your kitchenware that was designed by an artist if you feel that these things aren't valuable. Try it for a month, a week, a day, and see how your daily functional life is impacted, not just aesthetically, but in terms of its function. In sum, I find it amusing that we as a community are considering allocating so much funding for our high school football fields while the arts education is settling for less than the best and just the basic standard getting by at the grassroots level of our children who will eventually go to that high school. Thank you.
Thank you.
Council number 3. Thank you for taking the opportunity to let me speak this evening. My name is Leah Kam, and I'm here to speak to you about the decision to move Storm Art and Music from a dedicated classroom to a traveling cart. First, let me commend the district in paying attention to our at-risk students and trying to meet their needs. Like most Batavia residents, I moved here because of the quality schools, and I'm encouraged to see how much they care about their students. That being said, I'm also concerned about the decision to provide specials without a dedicated classroom. I myself am an elementary general music teacher, and I have been for the past 15 years. And I've been fortunate to have the majority of my career spent teaching in a dedicated music classroom, but I have also had to teach music on a cart. While Storm has excellent art and music teachers, I can tell you from experience that the quality of music education decreases significantly when taught from a cart. It is physically demanding and sometimes impossible to move materials such as classroom instruments, CD players, pianos, from room to room, thus limiting student access to valuable resources. Time is wasted when the teachers have to spend time at the beginning of each class to move classroom furniture and set up materials. Sometimes a lesson may not even be possible due to the setup of each room. Movement is a big part of the music curriculum, and that's hard or impossible to do depending on how each general ed teacher has their classroom set up. Classroom teachers aren't able to have their space to work during their plan time because lessons are being taught in their room. The students lose an opportunity to leave their classroom for a much-needed break and learn in a fresh environment. And music class is loud, thus it disturbs the learning environments of all the surrounding classrooms. The list goes on, but I know I have limited time, and I understand that the district is in a very tough situation of solving an important problem with several imperfect solutions. Each possible solution upsets a different apple cart, and I really appreciate that, and I know how hard your job is. However, I feel moved to speak out when I see Storm is the only one of our 6 elementary schools that is having its specials taught from a cart. Myself, my daughter's only 2.5. I won't have a student at Storm for 3 more years. But I want to bring it to the attention of the board that art and music are important, and I want my daughter to have the same opportunities as children who attend the other Batavia schools. I ask you to please explore other possible scenarios and come to a more desirable long-term solution. Thank you so much for your time.
Renee Friedenbank.
Good evening, everybody. I'd like to thank you for the opportunity to address the board this evening, and more importantly, thank you all for your service to our town. I feel extremely blessed to live in a community that values education, but also values the role of music and the arts and sports to produce well-rounded citizens. I'm here tonight to voice my support for the high school music and drama department policy instituted this year. Under this policy, the drama extracurriculars and music extracurriculars have been divided into seasons. I know that there's been controversy surrounding this decision, but as a parent of 3 high school music students over the past 5 years at Batavia, I can tell you from personal experience that this policy has already had a positive impact on my family. Under the new policy, students no longer have to commit to an activity for the majority of a school year, giving them time to explore other clubs and activities that the high school has to offer. The current policy ensures that the majority of rehearsals take place after school. This allows our children to be home in time for family dinners, allows ample time in the evening for homework, relaxation, and of course their other busy work schedules. As a parent, providing transportation to evening rehearsals was always a huge problem logistically for my family. The current policy drastically reduces this issue, making life so much easier because we only have to provide transportation one way. The current policy allows for more student participation in these extracurriculars than the past policy did. And while it is difficult for some students to have to make a choice between activities, I was the parent of a child who didn't know how to say no and actually was afraid to make a choice. This policy, if it had been instituted before she graduated, would have given her a safe out. It would have made her life so much less stressful. I would be remiss if I didn't acknowledge that it may be necessary to review which extracurriculars are offered in each season, and that is actually where the true conflict lies, and not in the concept of seasons itself. I also believe that our music and drama departments are open to this discussion as the year progresses. As with any policy, it should be subject to feedback and revision if necessary, but I would ask that everyone keep an open mind and know that our directors have our students' welfare at heart. There will be much time for feedback, for reflection, and for an appropriate response. Ultimately, we all want what is best for our children and what provides the most opportunity for enrichment, for challenges, and for success. And I believe that this policy does just that. Thank you so much for your time.
Jackie Berry?
Am I allowed to speak to two issues?
Sure, as long as it's under 3 minutes.
Oh, yeah, I will be. I did not prepare a speech. I was asked this morning to speak in favor of the facilities proposal and the co-curricular policy. I must admit I'm learning more than I came prepared to talk about. As a citizen, I was not aware of many of the things that I'm hearing tonight, so I'm very glad that I attended, and I do agree. Somebody said that we need more information. We absolutely need more information. There are many parents out there who have no idea what is going on. So I just wanted to state that. I am starting my 15th year as a parent in Batavia. I have 3 boys who have gone through all of the schools here. They've been involved in band, football, baseball, drama, and choir. And I consider myself a very active member of this community. I've been a member of the Boosters. I am a very active member of the Music Buffs, and I hope to become a member of the stage as well. We moved here specifically for the Batavia schools, but I will say we stayed with sports. Our sports program is top-notch. It's excellent. And walking out into the football field and seeing the fan base is amazing, and seeing the marching band and the football participating together. They've really come together as a team to support our students. And it's very sad to see that we can't house the fans that we have accumulated over the last 10 years. There's nowhere for people to go. There's nowhere for people to sit. I think the facilities are very much overdue, very much needed. They're very expensive, but as a parent whose children will never benefit from these new facilities, I'm very much in favor of them. I hope someday my grandchildren get to enjoy them. And I think that's all I had to say about that I am in favor of the facilities. As far as the curriculum, the new policy, I was very much against it at first. I have a child who's a freshman who wanted to be in marching band, but he also wanted to try out for the musical. And he was crushed when he found out he couldn't. He had to choose. And that decision had to be made in May. And he was not prepared to make that decision, but he did. And he chose to be in the musical. He chose to try out, but at that point he had to forego the possibility of being in marching band. Luckily, he did have a successful audition. He will now be part of the musical, and as I was inputting his calendar into my calendar, I realized, wow, they knew what they were talking about, because with the level of expectations for both programs, he would not be able to dedicate himself 100% to both programs. So I'm very glad that he was forced to make the decision, because now he can give 100% to one program where he wouldn't have been able to dedicate himself to 2 programs and deal with homework and deal with being a kid. My only problem with the policy, which I believe it's already being addressed, is that if he had not made the musical, he would be in nothing right now. And that really bothered me because that decision had to be made a long time ago. So I understand that it's in the proposal to have tryouts at the end of the school year. I hope that is the way that the policy is going to be changed for the future. So the kids have an idea, so they know if they're trying out for a cut sport or a cut activity or a tryout, that they'll know up front that if they don't make it, there are other options, so they don't have to make the decision ahead of time.
Okay.
Sorry if that was unclear. Thank you.
Lisa Farley. Lisa Farley. I'm sorry. Oh, no, I wasn't speaking loud enough, so they couldn't hear what names I was announcing.
My name is Lisa Farley, and I am speaking on behalf of the athletic stadium in favor of it. I'm going to speak more on a personal note. I am the one who started raising money for the stadium because I put my money where my mouth is. I don't necessarily want to see my taxes raised either. So I am on boosters and I am taking part in trying to raise money for it. But here's the reason. I have a son who's in college now, and it's because of sport that he's in college. In 4th grade, I was told he had something wrong. We didn't know what it was. We didn't know if it was going to be fixable. Didn't know if he would be able to drive. Didn't know if he'd be able to go to college. In 7th grade, in science class, he couldn't work as a team, so he was separated from the rest of the kids and put in the library to work independently because he couldn't work as a team. 7th grade, think about that. And then somebody gave him a lacrosse stick. And all of a sudden, after meeting after meeting, after psychologist after teacher, he could finally do something right. Our job as a community to help our children find what they do right, find their gifts, and let them excel at them. If you think it's expensive not to have a field for these people to participate on, I guarantee if you don't keep these boys and girls busy, keep them active, the cost of it will be more than you'd like to see. Right now, it's my understanding, there's been no approval for the tax referendum. There's been nothing for taxes. As far as I know, the facility has been approved. That's it. So maybe I won't raise $13 million, maybe we won't, but I'm going to do the best I can. My son ended up, through lacrosse, he learned how to be a team member. He learned discipline. He learned how to organize. He learned how to listen. And it transferred to the classroom. He not only got an academic scholarship, he got a lacrosse scholarship, and that's what took him away to college, and that's exactly what he needed. He is now independent. He's doing great, but it wouldn't have happened. The classroom, I think we have to look back at why extracurricular activities started, why sports started. It is a classroom without walls. It's a place where these kids learn, and my kid didn't need the academic work in the classroom. He needed the social skills and other teamwork and discipline, and all those things that are formed on the field. And so we have to put money into it just like we do at every other classroom. And so that's why I'm so passionate about it, is because sport is what saves my kid, and it's what saves a lot of kids, and it's what helps them find their gifts. And for some of you who know me, I don't just serve in sport. I help start the Art Boosters. I help with the Education Foundation. It's about all kids. It's not just about my kid. I will do anything for any kid, and this is one of the things that I've chosen to put my time and effort into, and I would love as much help as I could get. Thank you.
Dinwiddie? You have 3 minutes, girl.
Good evening. My name's Carl Dinwiddie. First of all, I want to say I'm very excited to see we have so many passionate and well-informed citizens of Batavia willing to come out and speak to the school board. I have not seen a turnout like this since a group in Chicago about 20 years ago tried to have the board cancel their holiday program at Christmas time. We filled the whole middle school. So I'm glad to see the passion. As everyone knows, we have a new superintendent and mostly new board members. These are very difficult and challenging times with concerns over security, core curriculum, pension reform, all kinds of federal and state mandates that must be complied with, finance, etc. So I thank the board members for volunteering for this position. For those of you who have looked at the board book for this meeting, it's almost 200-page long, and required reading for the board members before this meeting, and I think you're going to have a late night tonight. I have many issues, but this is a new day, and we need to give these new board members and superintendent a chance to catch up with fall classes starting and a new budget that must be finalized by September 30th. So many issues, so little time. I could talk for 30 minutes to an hour based on my research of the district finances last year. I reviewed 2 audits, 2 certified annual financial reports, 2 budgets, and 2 amended budgets, a whole year of credit card spending, termed P cards by the district, and over 1,000 pages of a whole year of spending by checks. What did I learn? First, I have to comment on the 11% levy last September and the 0.73% levy last December. I've heard board members, staff, and board candidates laud the so-called balanced budget. I have a question for everyone here. If you took your personal budget and your bills and expenditures, could you balance your budget with a miraculous 12% increase at one fell swoop and pay your bills? Last September, I spoke about the budget and mentioned the TIF money from the outlet mall was coming due, and I also questioned what had been done to reduce spending before the 12% increase. The 4.1 million TIF dollars have now become a revelation in June 2013, although I brought it up last September before the large levy. How does this 12% affect taxpayers in Batavia? In real dollars, the increase to my taxes, to be clear, and I'm saying just the yearly increase alone, in my school district taxes is larger than what I pay in total for taxes to the city of Batavia. The yearly increase is more than I pay in total to the Batavia Park District. The yearly increase is, of course, much larger than my entire tax bill to the Batavia Library. Just the 1-year increase. School taxes are the largest consumer of taxpayers' real estate dollars. Back to spending again, just so we put all this in perspective, in this board book for tonight, the CBA, or checks by account written for 1 month, which this board will approve tonight, is $1,954,844. This is an above and beyond salary expense and other expenses and other accounts. Many months in the last 12 months, the checks written in 1 month were well over $2 million per month. As a famous Illinois senator once said, a few million here and a few million there, and pretty soon you're talking about real money.
We're at 3.5, Mr. Denver.
We're running out of time?
We're already at 3.5, so if you can summarize.
Actually, what I did, just fast forward if necessary to the summary, but I'll give you a copy of everything
You'll
else.
give us a good, thank you.
Let me see, let me just read one section. Here's a quote from the Daily Hero about the use of purchase cards in District 101. After requesting a year's worth of invoices for the 97 purchase cards issued to Batavia Unit District 101 employees, he wanted to know why more than half the cards have been used at least once to cover meals or snacks. He also questioned other spending policies, was not satisfied with the district's response. A Daily Herald analysis of the purchase shows $2,237 was spent on 29 trips to Panera. Another $1,775 was spent on 18 visits to Jimmy John's, and almost $800 over the course of the year was spent at Dunkin' Donuts. Now I'll skip to my summary. I will speak at other board meetings where I feel we need a forensic audit for fraud, waste, and abuse with specific illustrations of problems I have found, and also with over 10 recommendations I have procedural and policy changes. Remember Dixon, Illinois, the city of Batavia, East Aurora School District, and now from, I'm not holding the article to move on, even the University of Illinois, this weekend, there was fraud by a professor down there. They all touted they had clean audits. One recent newspaper headline stated, quote, "Audits don't tell the entire story." I think this board and new superintendent need a special forensic audit for fraud, waste, and abuse to assure there are no surprises as they carry out their fiscal responsibilities under the law and to the taxpayers. I believe this board and superintendent are committed to better communications with their customers, such as parents, students, teachers, taxpayers. I think they are committed to increased transparency and hearing about what concerns and issues our customers have. And this is evident tonight. Apparently, the people here believe they can come to this board and they're going to be heard. Biggest turnout I've seen in years. So, as I said, this is a new day. An improvement from the past isn't going to happen overnight. But I am confident improvement is going to happen, and I'm hoping this board could turn out to be the best board that I've seen in my 27-plus years in Batavia.
Yvonne Dinwiddie.
Good evening. My name's Yvonne Dinwiddie, and I want to thank the members of the school board for taking on a daunting job. I realize that the school board's not a paying position, but it is a management position. You're all pretty new to the school board, and you have a unique opportunity to change how the board responds to the public and how policy is implemented by administration. As school board members, you make policy. You determine how the schools will be run, what parameters the administrators, teachers, and other employees must work within, and you control how all the tax dollars are spent and allocated. You are the bosses. When you're asked to approve expenditures via the consent agenda, each of you should review every receipt, every check, every expense before signing off on it. The review should determine the relevance of the expenditure to the school district, the need, the person making the expense, and ensure that the goods and services were actually received by the school district. You should ensure that there are approval processes in place that require signatures of the employee and his supervisor. In light of the recent discoveries of theft and mismanagement of money at cities and school boards, it is imperative that these kinds of audits take place. Many citizens are unhappy with the way the school district is running. We don't like the expenses, the emphasis on building and grounds instead of actual education, the high taxes, and the lack of communication. Some of us have been told that the school board makes up its mind and there's nothing we citizens can do except to elect new members. I believe we have attempted to do that, and you are it. You're in a unique position of demanding an audit for fraud, waste, and abuse because you are all new or relatively new to the board, and you should have a clean, audited slate to work with. That way, if there are any irregularities found in the books or with the employees and administrators, you can correct them without fault. In fact, you can become the heroes of District 101. We need to ensure that the district gets its priorities right. The most progressive era in American history was the baby boomer era. Most of us had less than a high school education, and yet we managed to put a man on the moon, develop computers, color television, adding machines, cell phones, industrial processes, manufacturing processes, cures and treatments for many diseases, and so on. And we were part of the most profitable and productive 40 years in this country. We are critical thinkers. We understand math, science, and engineering and have adapted to technology. Our country spends more on education than any other country in the world with less favorable results, and yet people from all over the world come to the USA legally or illegally to get an education. Despite this, corporations tell us our children are not educated in STEM subjects and use this as an excuse to hire foreigners. And now the government claims that our students need core curriculum in order to standardize learning. Today, we have enough technology, and our children know how to use it to make brick and mortar schools obsolete. We have free education through groups like the Khan Academy and interactive computer learning, even online colleges. Despite this, it appears that the school board and certain people want to build more brick and mortar and build new athletic fields and bleachers and art facilities instead of responding to the technological and science, engineering, and manufacturing educational needs of the country and our students. In 25 years, I have only heard one school board member say, "We need to raise the bar." It is now time for this school board to set measurable goals for the administrators and teachers and to actually raise the bar and exceed educational standards. Thank you.
Linda Sonner.
Good evening. I've been a resident of Batavia for 30 years, and I thank you for the opportunity to speak to you this evening. I would like to address the runoff from the proposed artificial turf fields. It is my understanding that the athletic field redevelopment plan eliminates both the arboretum and the retention pond on the southwest corner of the Batavia High School, replacing it with underground drainage. This area would be covered with a second artificial turf field. Where would the underground drainage of the contaminated water be directed? Without the vast root systems of the many well-established mature arboretum trees, which absorb and filter water, where would the contaminated water go? A study was conducted in 2008 in the state of Connecticut to evaluate the health and environmental impacts associated with artificial turf fields. Agencies involved in the study included the University of Connecticut Health Center, the Connecticut Agricultural Experiment Station, and the Connecticut Departments of Environmental Protection and Public Health. Their conclusion was that zinc contamination from the crumb rubber of artificial turf can cause a potential risk to drinking water and aquatic life. The DEP suggests that use of stormwater treatment measures such as stormwater treatment wetlands, wet ponds, infiltration structures, sand filters, and biofiltration structures may reduce the concentration of zinc in the stormwater runoff to acceptable levels. If this plan should proceed, I strongly suggest that adequate filtration measures be incorporated into the plan without exception. In 1999, I had the good fortune to hear a young woman, a native of Central Illinois, speak of her life experiences not only through the lens of a concerned scientist, but as a cancer survivor. Her name is Sandra Steingraber, called a modern-day Rachel Carson. In her eloquently written book, Living Downstream, she showcases numerous scientific studies that effectively make the link between toxic substances in the environment and health issues. There is no way to avoid it. We all live downstream. Our health depends upon the health of the natural world around us. Trees and clean water are essentials for a healthy, sustainable planet. Thank you.
Karen Cervini.
Was I close? Yes. Thank you. Good evening. Thank you for allowing me to speak. My name's Karen Cervini. I'm a resident in Batavia. I've lived here 11 years, and we moved here for the schools. I have two children. They are both in Batavia High School, freshman and senior, and I'm in strong support of the athletic fields, even though neither one of my children are athletes. I teach PE in another district and I coach. I've seen many school facilities in my time. As well as a PE teacher with a master's degree, I've done many studies or much research and found studies that support the education of the whole child. And that when children are physically active, they perform better cognitively. Children need to move. And I know the athletic fields, a proposal, would be used by PE classes as well as extracurricular activities. So it's not just for the athletes. There's actually a study that shows there's a direct correlation with students that perform in the healthy zone on the fitness tests. They do better on the ISAT test, a direct correlation. Again, children need to move. So in a way, I am speaking from the heart. And not to mention the school spirit. Everyone that lives in Batavia sees the spirit that comes out during the football season. That's involves students, keeps them busy outside the school as well as inside the school. Think where we want our students to be on the weekends and the evenings. Do we want them to be involved in school activities or not? So I see any support for school facilities, not just a support for brick and mortar for facility, but support for education of the whole child. Also, when students are active and involved in sports, it supports social emotional learning, cooperation, teamwork, all those qualities that we want our children to have to be successful once they're out of school into college and beyond. As well as the logistics of our current field situation and stadium situation being too small. If you've ever been to a game, you know you have to get there early to get a seat at the football games. So in closing, I want to say that I'm sure we can work out all the little issues, and I thank you for your support, the little issues with the drainage, the trees. If we really want to come together as a community and support our children, which helps grow our community, I think we can work out all those little issues to make it happen. Thank you.
Thank you. Marcia Swift?
One brief moment. I'd like to thank the Dinwitties, who I met in 1992 at a networking meeting, for being so diligent in our district. And I always wondered why people did this, and I know now, because I have some issues. So I think you are great examples of the hard work that we need more people in our town to do. I didn't prepare any notes because I made a decision to come today, but I decided that I think I'm going to be the 3-minute mom. And I put you guys on my calendar for the next 2.5 years because that's the calendar that you have out right now. So I want to share with you my experiences in Batavia since I've been here. My son is now a freshman in high school. I've been in business here since 1992, and we've lived here since 1993. Paid a whole lot of taxes. We are educating only one child here. Just happens to be the way it is, and a lot of things have come to our attention very recently about some of the things that happened during my child's tenure here. One of them being which we believe that he was denied special education services for the last 5 years. And we've just discovered those by doing our own testing and spending thousands of dollars on finding out information about our son. And it turns out he has nonverbal reasoning skills in the genius level, superior, but we've been told that he does not. And he has been denied a lot of things, as well as expressive receptive language services. He has auditory processing issues, but if you looked at him, you'd never know. He just looks like every other kid, and he's very bright, so he's been able to compensate for a lot. But while we've been going through this, through the years, my son has been an arts student, and he has been participated in many, many art productions. He was in the musical last year. He is in the marching band. He's on drumline. He also, as a freshman, made all-conference tennis, third singles as a freshman. So we are for all the athletes as well. I'm kind of neutral still on this, the plan. I do think we have some serious issues to look at for the athletic programs before we spend that kind of money. Because my biggest concern is that we have just built the Batavia Fine Arts Center and a music wing so that we can fully offer a whole bunch of opportunities to our children, and those opportunities just got cut. And my son was one of the children that was affected by that. And by him being in these two programs, it's helped him with a lot of the deficits that he comes across every day. And as parents who visited Stanford in Thanksgiving, we found out a lot of things that our district isn't doing for those kids who are gifted, as well as all kids going to college. And I know that some parents here who are for the new seasons, the one child, I believe, that doesn't have to make a decision now, but has both of those things on their resume now that they've left for college. And I would like my son to have that opportunity as well, because one of the things we found at Stanford for a child like mine is he has an excellent chance of going to school like that if he stays with the arts. And he was very successful with both of those activities last year. And for us right now, our son is already bored out of his mind. So I don't mind driving to go and pick up my son at different times, because I felt that the staggered program was much more effective so that parents could choose if they wanted their child to be in one program, two programs, no programs, one season, a different season. But we feel the parents that were affected, which is a fairly small number. So I'm pretty certain that's why it got through, because our stage members, the parents that we've talked to, except for Kathy, never even knew that this change was occurring, including our directors in the music department. And I got three different, I got 3 different versions of the new policy because I was the first parent to discover the change. And the first version was, you could be in both, but you might need to be an alternate. We were okay with that, because then maybe you just take on a smaller role. We understand you may not be able to be the lead. That's reasonable. Having no option is not reasonable to us. The second option, after I brought this to everybody's attention, was you can be in a sport, but you cannot be in the musical while participating in marching band. And we said, whoa, 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 whoa. The kids in sports have far more conflicts than the kids in marching band in the fall musical because they're staggered. They aren't at the same time. The only time they're at the same time last year is when the music directors were not good stewards of their time, and they conflicted with the pre-existing schedule for their own benefit at the detriment of the kids in the musical. And the parents who were involved, both kids, there was about 7 of us, all were very aware of that at the time. Then we summarize. I will. And then we got our third because we brought it to their attention again. And now they said, well, you know what? Now nobody can do 2. Not the athletes, because see, a couple of the athletes didn't choose marching band. They chose their sport. And then the band directors were like, whoa, whoa, whoa. So we'll let the marching band kids from sports do marching band, but not the arts kids can't do arts. So our facilities right now that we've built and spent all these tax dollars on are not being fully utilized. And I'd like that to be considered before we start spending more money on more programs when we've already spent a whole lot of money and not getting what we thought we were paying for. So, and it's interesting that tonight was our arts topic all over the place, because I think maybe we need to relook at that, because the arts are very effective for our children's cognitive development. And we have brought this to Lisa's attention since February, and we would like to be heard. Thank you.
Grace Keppel? Grace?
Hi. My name is Grace Keppel, and I have a couple of letters to read from people who cannot make it but have something important to say. Liddy Scott from Morton Arboretum writes, Dear members of Batavia School Board, I am writing in response to some inquiries received by the Community Trees Program Office of the Morton Arboretum with respect to removal of the Batavia High School Arboretum to expand ball fields at the Batavia High School. The Community Trees Program does not make a judgment or take a position on plans and actions, but can provide information to assist in making a decision that is in the best interest of all concerned, including students, the community, the environment, and trees themselves. The species mix at the Batavia High School Arboretum is diverse, and many of the trees are sufficiently large to provide excellent shade and resources to students, the general public, and an assortment of wildlife. Following are some points which the board may wish to consider. 1. The diversity of the ages of the trees in the Batavia Arboretum is significant. Some of the trees are 20 or more inches in diameter at breast height, indicating that they were planted many years ago, perhaps 40 or more years ago. Planting trees is not something which is typically done for the current generation, but it is done to benefit generations in the future. Trees are long-lived species which require commitment and dedication for them to reach maturity and their potential. These trees have been in the Arboretum for many years and have been maintained to allow them to grow healthy to maturity. Trees provide many benefits, and larger trees provide more benefits. We know from many scientific studies that trees improve our quality of life by improving air and water quality, and the larger trees, the more benefits. Similar studies have shown that trees and nature provide health, psychological, and behavioral benefits as well. Students who have contact with trees and nature are more imaginative, creative, exhibit improved intellectual development, and improved social relationships. They also show increased ability to concentrate and reduce aggressive behavior. I do not know if the faculty at the Batavia High School take advantage of the Batavia Arboretum as a resource, but it appears that there has been a continued interest for many years as younger trees are present in the Arboretum. Not many school campuses have this historic resource on campus, which can provide an excellent educational opportunities for students. These opportunities would include botany, biology, chemistry, physics, psychology, sociology, English, literature, zoology, math, and more. 3. An arboretum is a typical of botanical garden, a living collection of trees for people to study and enjoy. The collective Batavia Arboretum is not the same as distributing individual trees throughout the high school campus. As students walk into the Arboretum, they are able to experience the forest canopy unlike anywhere else on campus. I am not aware of other groves of trees on campus, and while there are many locations where trees could be planted to provide shade for students or spectators and resources for birds or insects or even wildlife, nowhere else is there a space for a collective setting. It takes 2 or 3 generations to establish the type of setting now in place at the school. You may even wish to encourage the school to enter the ARBNet program for professional recognition and accreditation for arboreta. 4. The Chicago region is currently under severe threat due to the emerald ash borer. This insect will kill 12.7 million ash trees in the next 5 to 10 years. A regional focus to protect trees and replace them is underway. Every tree helps to reduce rainwater runoff, reduce pollution in the air, and to improve our quality of life. 5. Batavia High School is an institution where learning is an active and passive experience. A decision about the Batavia Arboretum will send an institutional message that will have an impact on the students. The Community Trees Program is a regional resource provided by the Morton Arboretum on the care and management of trees. I am providing these comments within the context of the program's role, and I wish you well in addressing this important subject. Sincerely, Lydia Scott, Community Trees Program Manager. Also, the City Arborist Frank Sopp writes, to whom it may concern. This is to advise you that I have visited the Batavia High School Arboretum site located on the southwest corner of the campus and have recently surveyed the tree inventory which has been planted there over the past 40-plus years. It is my opinion that this site represents one of the best presentation of tree types to be found anywhere in the city of Batavia as it currently exists. Many of these trees now have considerable age in their root systems and can be described as mature trees under any definition. This site truly can be used as a learning area to teach students of the variety of tree types native to our town and further illustrate the differences that exist in growth patterns within the tree family. It is in my memory that such a display was a key goal of the original founders of this site back in the late 1960s. Sincerely, Frank Sopp, City Arborist, Batavia Tree Commission. Oh, and Frank Sopp said it has been discussed and concluded that the trees are too big to be moved, the cost would be too much, with no guarantee of survival. They would have to be chopped down. Thank you.
Thank you.
This was approved before distribution.
Oh, great.
This one's just put together changes. There's another one to add to.
Hi, I'm Sylvia Keppel, a biologist, a mother, and a resident of Batavia for 15 years. At the June board meeting, Pat Brown's presentation on the $13 million athletic fields development plan was unbalanced, focusing only on the positives of the plan. What was left unsaid were the negatives. To make an informed decision, you need both sides. Here I'd like to address a very serious problem with artificial turf, temperature. Why is temperature a problem? It's a problem because artificial turf gets very hot. According to the University of Arkansas, on a sunny 98-degree day, artificial turf surface temperatures have been recorded as high as 199 degrees Fahrenheit. The heat retention of synthetic turf can lead to heat stroke, dehydration, muscle cramping, and fatigue for the athletes. I've prepared for you a graphic showing test results from Clemson and Brigham Young universities, demonstrating the difference in temperature of various surfaces as well as the extreme high temperatures of an artificial turf field. At the University of Missouri on a 98-degree day, the surface of the artificial turf was measured at 173 degrees, while the temperature at head height was 138 degrees. Brad Friesenberg, the university's turfgrass expert, had this to say: if they are going to have artificial fields, we need coaches, parents, and players to know that temperatures on these fields are going to be anywhere from 150 to 170 degrees on some days. You might as well be sitting in an oven somewhere. Penn State University found that spraying the field with water can help reduce the temperature, but the cooling effects are short-lived at about 20 minutes, not enough to last through a game, and repeated irrigation is impractical for practices. Special care would need to be taken to ensure the safety of the students so that they wouldn't overheat during practice or games. In cooler months, when the sun's light is less intense, this would not be much of an issue. The teams and marching band begin practicing toward the end of summer. When my son started band at Batavia years ago, marching band was mandatory. They had a week of band camp in August before school started to learn the marching routines. There were 90-plus degree days when, even on grass, students collapsed from the heat. During breaks, they sought the shade of the trees in the arboretum. With this plan that you approve, the temperature of the turf will be much hotter. One coach at Brigham Young had gotten blisters on his feet from the heat transferred through his tennis shoes. And there will be no shade to retreat to, as that arboretum will have been cut down. I asked a Geneva student recently who does flags what she thought of the new artificial turf at Geneva's high school. She said, quote, "It gets really hot." And she said that she, in flags, even got a turf burn once because the surface is so abrasive. Though to be fair, she did say that the artificial turf is an improvement for Geneva, whose football field is at a low point that saw frequent flooding with subsequent destruction of the sod when the soft earth got ripped up by players' cleats. But when I asked her which she'd prefer, artificial turf or an even, non-flooded grass field, she paused to think, then responded confidently, grass. There certainly are some situations where artificial turf may be best, like in Geneva or in indoor arenas, but this is not the case for Batavia, where you may be anticipating more practice and game time on the synthetic surface because of the extreme heat retained by artificial turf. Instead, you may end up finding you have less time because of the need to consider first the safety of the students and postpone field time to cooler days or early morning hours when the sun is not so intense. Or, as Missouri's Friesenberg advised, in the hot afternoon hours of August and September, teams should seek out natural grass alternatives. Please reconsider the artificial turf in light of these facts. Thank you. Oh, and one more thing. Today, a friend of mine went to Aurora Christian's artificial turf field. She used an infrared thermometer to take temperature readings. That's what the second page that I gave you. At 12:50 p.m., the National Weather Service listed the temperature for Aurora at 87 degrees. Now, with the air temperature at 87 degrees, not even the highest temperature reached today. The grass was 100 degrees, the asphalt 120 degrees, and the artificial turf 142 degrees. Her kids urged her to take the temperature of their Eagle logo in the middle of the turf since it was black in color. That temperature measured 150 degrees. Something to think about.
Thank you. Mildred Lober.
Good evening. I'm new at this, so mine's going to be short and brief. Because I've been a resident of Batavia for only 20 years and a representative for seniors on a fixed income. The reason for my being present here is that I am concerned with your plans to spend over $13 million for sports, since it is inevitable that a good portion of the funding will have to come from us taxpayers, including us seniors and other residents who are unable to pay the higher taxes. There is a saying that a man is only as good as his word. I think that you may have heard of it and its meaning. The school board was not to increase taxes, but have gone back on their word concerning the Batavia Fine Arts Center. The tax rate was to be kept at the 2006 level, but the property taxes have gone up tremendously, and the thought of spending over $13 million more for sports fields, which might be a good idea if it would not cause a burden of the residents of our grand town, it's just difficult to understand. How would this extravagant project benefit the senior citizens who would be paying taxes for it, along with others who would not get any benefit from it? Please, would you consider the impact on senior residents or people who are in very dire need of work or medically dependent on assistance? If you really want to spend over $13 million, would you please do something that would really put Batavia on the map for being the best place in the world to live because of its thoughtfulness and concern for its taxpayers. Something that would really give you pride in Batavia as well as in yourself. Thank you.
Joe Marconi.
Joe Marconi, that's me. Hi, everybody. My name is Joe Marconi, and I live across the street, as you all know. I have been a resident, businessman, property owner in Batavia for over 40 years. I've just read in the newspapers you are prepared to spend $13 million on such things as turf for the football field, lights for the tennis courts, and a maintenance garage. I think that you have spare money, it should go to paying down your debt, as any reasonable entity would do. I think all of your employees should be on a 401k. I've attached a couple of items from the New York Times about how pension funds for retired teachers are at risk or collapse. The taxpayers of Batavia are fed up with exorbitant taxes and something has to give. Now, I took here an article out of the New York Times last week, and it says, Chicago sees pension crisis drawing near. Politics and downturn put a city at risk. The pension fund for retired Chicago teachers stand at risk of collapse. Public pensions about Detroit. You know, I, as a citizen of Batavia, have never said no to anything that the Batavia Park District or the school board or the library wanted. I always said yes, and I think most of my fellow constituents did too. But you know, I own several properties in town, and it is very difficult for me to make out anything even. What's happening is the taxes have gone up, the insurance has gone up, and the cost of doing business has been astronomical. And we just can't do it. I mean, you know, you wanted a $80 million school, we gave it to you. The library wanted a $10 million library, and we gave it to them. But you know, something has to give. And I think that I talk for my fellow retirees who need that extra income to live on. I think that you could really stand up and take note. In my wildest dreams, I could never imagine that we could give the superintendent of schools, or whoever it is, $190,000 a year pension. I mean, I can't believe it. I mean, that has to stop. And we have to do something, and we have to do it soon. Thank you.
Kathy Rarick, or Ranick? Ranick?
I'm here to talk about the Arboretum. I'm a certified arborist, certified by International Society of Arboriculture. I'm a resident of Batavia. I've lived here 18 years. 3 of my children graduated Batavia High School, and I've worked here in the Tri-City area as a arborist representative for the care of trees and Davy Tree since 2005. I did a survey of the Arboretum. I don't know if everyone's ever seen it, but there are some beautiful trees there. I heard it described, I saw the June 25th description of the Arboretum as having trees that are crowded and poor condition, failing from insect infestation. And I, in fact, actually found some really nice specimens there. There are 9 key specimen trees in the Arboretum. There are a total of 37 trees there. Of the 9 key specimen trees, there are some trees that probably date back 70 years. There's a 30-inch diameter Hills oak, it's a very high-value tree, and a 20-inch diameter blue ash, which is a very rare tree. There are also 7 significant trees. These are trees that are 10 inches or larger and have a desirable species type. There are 7 Kane County natives with conservative species ratings. These are species ratings which indicate how rare the tree is and how it indicates a high-quality environment. There are 2 nice pine trees, a nice crabapple, a black alder, a couple of nice tree lilacs, and 3 lesser specimens. Of the 37 trees, there are 5 that might not be considered good trees. The rest are very high-value trees. They're nicely spaced, and they're anywhere, as has been described, from maybe 10 to 70 years old. Replacing these trees, using Geneva's tree preservation ordinance, we have none in Batavia, by the way, we should. It would require 298 2-inch diameter trees. If we use their ordinance and how they ask for compensation in diameter inches for lost diameter inches. And these 2-inch diameter trees would be 10-foot trees. There's no way to possibly replace these beautiful specimens. They have value, they have aesthetic value and monetary value. Our industry has designed a tree benefit calculator to try and put some metrics on the value that trees provide. They aid in the stormwater runoff containment, they enhance air quality. Athletes do breathe oxygen. They reduce noise through buffering and screening. They do make noise. They provide shade. I stopped by there today to confirm identification of one of the trees, and it was amazing. It felt like a 20-degree temperature change walking into that grove. It's really beautiful, so I hope you get a chance to visit it before you lose it. It provides a windbreak, and it does provide habitat for wildlife. I did see several birds in there today, a squirrel. So it's a living thing. We ask that when you're contemplating your plans for this land use change, that you exclude the Arboretum from these plans and find different ways to work out whatever plan you decide on. These are very high-value trees, and we really should keep this piece of Batavia. Thank you.
Olache. Thank you.
My name is Michelle Olache, and I'm here tonight to ask you, members of the Board of Education, to reconsider your decision to build the new athletic fields. I'm completely against spending $13.4 million taxpayer dollars, or whatever higher amount it will end up being by the time the project is done, for athletics. I understand that sports is a part of a student's total education, so I just want to address those who are saying that we need to, update the athletic fields. I'm not against it, but this kind of outrageous spending is breaking the backs of Batavia's citizens. 5 of you here have decided to spend $13.4 million to afford for the youth of our community a state-of-the-art sports environment. I wonder if when making this decision you were aware of all the possible problems that can occur with the proposed plan. I would like to address just one small aspect about one of the proposals, namely the artificial turf. There are many problems with artificial turf that have been or will be mentioned here tonight, but I want to focus on turf burn and the possible increased rate of infections. A turf burn is like a rug burn, namely it's an abrasion from playing on artificial turf. A safety study of artificial turf containing crumb rubber infill made from recycled tires was performed in October 2010 by the California Department of Resources, Recycling and Recovery. The primary finding of this study, which covered intercollegiate soccer played in California and Nevada during the summer and fall of 2008, was that artificial turf containing crumb rubber infill was associated with 2 to 3-fold more skin abrasions per player hour than natural turf. This was true for both female and male teams. The abrasions were caused by contact with the playing surface and were serious enough to require treatment by the team's athletic trainer. So I handed out pictures of turf burn. These abrasions have also been shown to lead to a higher incidence of infections among players as compared to those who play on natural grass. Scientists from the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, the CDC in Atlanta, for example, investigated skin infections among St. Louis Rams players who host games on artificial turf. Between August and November of 2003, Rams players averaged 2 to 3 so-called turf burns each week. In response to abrasions, 5 of the 58 players on the team developed abscess Staphylococcus aureus infections that were resistant to drugs in the penicillin family and to antibiotics called macrolides. To clarify, Staphylococcus aureus is staph, and MRSA, a drug-resistant strain of staph, are bacterial infections contracted with just such abrasions and cuts. These infections are dangerous, especially community-associated MRSA, which can, if left untreated, infect the blood and bones and is potentially life-threatening. MRSA is also difficult to treat because it is resistant to many antibiotics. So, unfortunately, my printer failed, but I do have some graphic pictures of MRSA infections that I did get Mrs. Hitchens' approval to pass around. So I don't have one for everyone. You'd have to pass it. We can share. Yes. Artificial turf is sold with promises of lower maintenance. No watering, no mowing. They sound great, but these conveniences can create a potentially dangerous situation when it comes to managing the surface's cleanliness. To help reduce the possibility of infections, the artificial turf will have to be disinfected, and every scrape that a player receives will require extra care in cleansing it. The higher risk of turf burns and subsequent infections to our city's young people who will be using these fields is only one of the many reasons to please reconsider this vote. Thank you.
Thank you. Cheryl Murphy.
Well, thank you for your time. Many of my points have been made, so I will be probably the briefest of the evening, but I wanted to come in support of the athletic field plan. I've lived in Batavia for 20 years. I have twins that are seniors and a daughter who's a freshman, so my children will not even see the benefits of this plan, but I'm still in support of it. We have one high school, one middle school in this town that brings a tremendous sense of community. That's a benefit. The downside of that is we have a lot of students who compete for a limited number of facilities. As was mentioned, statistically, student athletes, student musicians, they perform better academically, so it's very important to give them those facilities to have these activities. My sons both play lacrosse, and it's an emerging sport. They were not afforded the opportunity to play at the Batavia High School. They had to drive every day to Rotolo to do practice and games. And they were not, many of their games had to be away games because the facilities we had, either the fields were too wet and it was dangerous for them to play on them, or there just wasn't space and facilities for them to play. During those away games, we don't have an athletic trainer on staff or on site at that point. So the goal would be to bring all of the activities back home. I think that's part of the athletic plan. It's not just turf, it's about facilities. It's not just football, it's about many activities. Soccer, baseball, softball, track, marching band, dance, cheer, lacrosse, and some other emerging sport that we might not even know about today could benefit from these facilities. So because of that, I support your decision to pursue or at least explore this plan. And with that, I'm going to go help Lisa raise money.
Thank you. We don't have anyone else, do we? Okay, well, thank you everyone for public comment. Normally, we would save our comments for that in the evening. Did you fill out a pink form?
I was not on the list. Can I say a few words?
Can you fill out a pink form and we'd welcome you to the table?
My humble assistant. How about I fill out the form and address you a few words?
That would be fine. If you just tell us your name and address while you address us, that would be terrific.
Thank you. Thank you. It's a disadvantage of coming in late.
or standing in the back. My name is Jerry Dempsey. I'm the owner of Batavia Enterprises. Excuse me for my late voice. I had read a newspaper article in the Chronicle, and I sent Lisa a note on it, and I wanted to come to this evening and say a few words. When I read the story about spending $13.4 million on improving the athletic fields, my first reaction was, wow, that's a lot of money. I'm the first one to say we have to keep our fields and our athletic facilities in good shape, but $13.4 million is an awful lot of money. In today's tight economy, with real estate taxes going up, I can't believe that the Batavia School District would vote in favor of a $13.4 million improvement in athletic fields. Although I appreciate the value of sports, my eye tells me that your facilities are in pretty good shape. I'm not an expert, that's just from an obvious drive-by. Proposing $4.2 million to install turf, maintenance garage for $787,000, baseball fields for $1.2, if I got my analogies correct, and then another $400,000 for putting lights on the tennis courts. I generally see most tennis games and practices being done during the daytime period, and I think your tennis courts are in pretty good shape. I just wanted to, I also read the paper that you had, like, at the time I read the note, 37 were in favor and 7 were opposed. So I wanted to come this evening and at least count for the opposition and say that I hope that balances. I hope you will reconsider. I hope you spend some money on your athletic fields because it's very, very important, but $13.4 million in today's economic environment, lots of dollars. I'll fill that out.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So I just wanted to share something. First, I wanted to thank everyone who came tonight to share your comments. We really value your input. We encourage people to come and share with the board. We also recognize and share your frustrations in trying to communicate within the confines of the Open Meetings Act. It's really hard to put your thoughts into 3 minutes. So with that in mind, we would like to offer an opportunity to be able to meet on a somewhat more informal level. We have a relatively new board, and we are all really excited. But we also know that there's a lot that we have to learn, a lot of opinions that we don't already know, a lot of input that we don't already have. So we are going to start offering an opportunity to meet with 2 of us at a time. A group can share your concerns, your thoughts, help us to understand your positions. It won't be a problem-solving meeting. It will be an opportunity for us to learn more as individuals. One of the things we want to remind you of, when we go out 2 of us at a time, we have no authority to act as the board. So this is our chance to go out and meet with you and learn more, so that when we come back to this environment, we've got as much information, as many viewpoints, and as much knowledge as we can possibly have. So we are going to be sending out some communications about that. The other thing that's kind of nice that we can offer is if you do have a specific problem, I like to refer to us as we can be tour guides. We can tell you who you should speak to. We can help guide you along that path. So that's what we're hoping to accomplish with these. If anyone is interested, I got a whole room full of people tonight. You can contact us via our email addresses on the website. As I mentioned, we're also going to be sending out some information about our initiative, and we'll have contact information there. Normally I would have said that at the end of the meeting, but I don't know that you're all going to want to stay to the end of the meeting, and I didn't want to miss the chance to share that with you. So thank you again for everyone coming. Should I go there too? Also, I just wanted to take a chance just to address the athletic field, because we do understand there's concerns in the community, and we do want to remind you, nothing is physically planned. We have not budgeted any money spent this year. We have not spent any money on repairs or anything at this moment. So our intent is to take this glacially slowly and really look at all of these. So it is only a vision that we've approved. We're trying to plan for the capital repairs that we need to make, and now we have some confidence that we know where those repairs where those facilities that we're repairing really will be in the future. So again, we're happy to listen to you, but I do want to reassure everybody, no money has been spent, nothing has been done yet. It is only a vision. So thank you all for coming tonight.
Thank you.
Oh yeah, we have a whole agenda.
Quarter to 9.
I was thinking we were done.
3.2. So, public comment, or representatives,
Okay. I'd like to invite Tony Millay to the table. Tony Millay to the table.
Tony, wait, Tony.
Thank you, Joe.
Hi, Tony.
Hello.
Talk loud.
And fast. That's mine.
No, we don't.
Okay. Thank you. Teacher voice. Thank you for this opportunity.
Do you want to tell them that we're still meeting?
Can I just ask for quiet in the room? We're still trying to conduct the rest of our meeting. Thank you. Gotta hand you.
Thanks for your time.
One last comment. Anybody that has information is welcome to give it to Kathy Skakidi. She can record it and make sure that we all see it. Tony.
Okay, thank you. I'll be quick, I promise. I would just like to, I have a couple comments. The first is, I must admit that this has been the smoothest first 6 days in my memory here in Batavia. And I think that is very impressive considering the change that we've had here. This board here is a totally different board from a couple of years ago, which that in itself is amazing, but we also have a significantly new administration in this district, and with all of that change, we've still managed to have such a smooth start, and I think that's a testament to the committed, to those committed in this district. The other comment I would like to make, the BEA has implemented a appraisal consultants program. We've got 15 of our members that are appraisal consultants now. We've gone through the state training of being a qualified evaluators. Sorry.
It's been a long day.
And this is a program that the association feels strongly about. In fact, we are funding it because we are committed to continually improving our practice. And I will be sharing, as I told you earlier, Kathy, the proposal, I'm going to share that with you because I don't know if you guys have seen that, just so you can have a heads up what our intentions are with this. So, that's all I have, and thanks.
Thank you, Tony.
Short agenda from here on out.
Do we have anyone from BestFit tonight that would like to address the board? Okay, then I would like to invite our Director of Communications, Raquel Lightburn-Coley, to share celebration with us.
Good evening.
Good evening.
As many of you are aware, I've recently introduced the Friday feature, and the aim of this new initiative is to celebrate successes and to tell the good news of the district. So what's going on in our schools and what's going on throughout the district. So far, I've gotten lots of really positive feedback. People seem to be encouraged by the good news and feel connected to the district, and the stories are resonating with them. Some of the more recent articles we've done are on the Watchdog program at Hoover Wood and also the Kinder Camp program at Batavia Apartments. So what we propose to do going forward to help further celebrate successes is to actually invite the people who have been featured or who will be featured in future articles to present to the board their initiatives or what they're involved in. So we'll have a streamline basically of people who can come in and share their stories. This will allow them to personally share their successes with you and also give them a wider platform to share so more people can hear the good news about what they're doing. So that's our plan moving forward, to keep the Friday features going strong and then to invite them to speak to the board whenever we have something to celebrate. So that should be pretty often.
Great.
Okay, so that's what we're doing, and we'll have some people the next time we meet. Any questions?
No, that sounds great.
Okay.
Thank you,
Can I ask a question? Can I just ask, how are they chosen? Or who gets to pick how? I mean, I like the last two articles.
Yes.
How are they
They're
picked or chosen?
They're chosen based on a number of factors. A lot of it has to do with what's timely, what's going on in the district, how relevant it is to the calendar.
Okay.
Also, how it would resonate, how significant it is to the broader community, what would be newsworthy to them. Also, what the schools feel are important for the stakeholders to hear, and also what the stakeholders themselves want to hear about. So any feedback that I get from the community about what's important and what they want to learn. So a number of different factors go into deciding how those stories are told.
Yes.
Okay?
Thank you.
Great, thank you.
Thanks. Item number 4 is our consent agenda. Consent agenda is a method of streamlining our meetings by taking, you couldn't have said earlier, by taking one vote on a number of routine personnel and business items. Each of the items is detailed in the agenda and has been appropriately posted in the board packet. Dr. Newkirk, will you read the consent agenda?
Sure. Under item 4.1 is the approval of minutes. This includes regular meeting, closed session, and special meeting from July and August. Under personnel, there's resignation certified, the employment of 12 certified staff, increase in contracts for 2 certified staff members, the resignation of classified staff, the employment of classified staff, the employment of technology staff, an increase in contract for a member of the technology staff, promotion for 3 members of the technology staff, resignations of 2 members of technology, increase in contract of a classified employee, reduction in contract of a certified employee, and 2 requests for leave of absence. Under item 4.3 is the approval of the routine financial items, including the net payrolls and the bill listing included in the board packet. Item 4.4 is the treasurer's report, including revenues, expenditures, fund balance, and investment summaries. 4.5, the approval of donations, a $300 donation to AGS from BP Fabric of America, 2 donations to RMS, including those from Wells Fargo and BP Fabric of America. We had several FOIA requests, including 5 from Patty Lopinsansky, 3 from Carl Dinwiddie, and 2 media requests from Ashley Sloba and Jake Griffin. Under item 4.7 are 2 updates, legal updates, and 2 policies, section 2, policy 105, and policy section 7, policy 180, which is the preventing bullying, intimidation, and harassment.
Thank you. Are there any items on the consent agenda for removal or clarification?
Not any item, but I guess for clarification, I like what you had said before and reiterated. When we go over a consent agenda, it's just to be able to, rather than vote on every item, which we have that option to do, it's just to move things along a little better. And although I want to reiterate, we get a detailed listing of each item in the consent agenda. The book we get is 109 pages long, so much of my weekend is spent this week 109. We are reading, a lot of stuff. So even though it sounds like, wow, you just approved a lot of stuff and blew right through it, we didn't.
And don't forget, that's also available in our board book to all of the public, so everyone can see everything that we're voting on. And we're assuming that everyone can read it and doesn't want us to reread it all again.
I don't know if this matters, but Sarah Stone is listed twice under employment classified.
2 different jobs or the same one?
I think it's the same job. I don't know if that matters or if it has to be on record, so I just caught that.
Okay, with that correction and or clarification as necessary, do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda with that correction or clarification made for Sarah Stone?
Second, yeah, I did.
Okay, moved by Hahn, second by Stoops. Kathy, could you call the roll?
Blakely. Yes.
Gansmar.
Yes.
Hodge.
Yes.
Impastato.
Yes.
Flock.
Yes.
Stuckey.
Yes.
Trammell.
Yes. Item passes. We have two items tonight for discussion under item 5. First, could I please have Mr. Inglesi discuss the district's emergency operations plan?
Certainly, and good evening. The district crisis plan, as we've called it in years past, was last substantially updated in 2009. And last winter, what is now called the Emergency Management Advisory Committee took on the task of updating the crisis plan, which is now called the Emergency Operations Plan.
Okay.
So we've changed some names. And the purpose of changing the names isn't to obfuscate things, it's to clarify things, especially when we're talking about operating conditions in emergencies and coordinating communications between multiple agencies and first responders. So I'm going to review at a very high level what we're working on tonight, which is still a draft of this plan. So as I said, we've started on this process in the last winter, and of course, the federal government just released new guidance for us in June. So it was actually late June, June 18th to be specific, but we've already begun using that new guidance and adapting it to this plan in earnest. So we have a draft of the plan that we're sharing with you tonight, and it comes from a number of agencies from the federal government, and it applies the lessons learned from a number of incidents that have happened across the country in the last year. The purpose of updating the plan is to align with what we call NIMS and ICS, which when you work with the federal government, you learn a lot of acronyms. NIMS stands for the National Incident Management System, and ICS stands for the Incident Command System. And these two systems are frameworks for agencies of any type, whether they be schools, police departments, fire departments, state or federal level agencies, local volunteer groups, private groups, businesses, corporations. These are frameworks for which and protocols by which these agencies operate and actually define common language for each other, so that in the case of emergency, there is clear, plain language that's used, there's clear chain of command and understanding of who's in charge of what. So we've had these processes and protocols in our plan for many years, but we're taking them to the next level and making sure that we're in full alignment. And many times in our schools, we use very different language that would not be very helpful in the case of emergency. Police officers use very different terminology, and firefighters use very different terminology than we do, and we want to make sure that there isn't any confusion whatsoever when bad things happen. So as I said earlier, we want to implement our new best practices and new procedures, and we want to do that with our partners, especially our local partners, police, fire, and ESDA, the Emergency Disaster Services Agency here in Batavia, and want to make sure that they know what we're doing and we're on the same page. And we want to move from what has traditionally been with our crisis plan, a responsive plan. We were always prepared to respond, but not necessarily fully prepared to practice and fully ready. So our plan outlined procedures to actuate when bad things happen, but they didn't necessarily help us to prepare. And so we're identifying very clear preparedness procedures with roles as far as who's responsible for what, who's responsible for verifying that we're ready and practicing that we're ready beforehand, and also identifying recovery procedures. So after the incident happens, what things do we need to be thinking about, whom do we need to communicate with, and what needs to happen to get us to return to normal operations. And of course, we do a lot of drills in our schools over the course of a school year, but we don't necessarily actuate the emergency operations plan when we do those drills. And we want to make sure use those as opportunities to practice the emergency plans themselves and as learning experiences of what we might do better in the future and how we might improve. So we're going to actually activate our emergency operations plan when we do drills with local fire and police. And we also want to move to more of a what is called a management by objective philosophy rather than a procedural philosophy. There are practically limitless hazards and threats that we can conceive of happening in schools, and by and large, our plans are procedural, but we know that there are many unforeseen circumstances that we could never imagine. And so we want to be able to identify the goals and objectives of any particular hazard or threat that we respond to, so that when the procedure doesn't necessarily make sense or is not clear, that our leaders know what the goals and objectives are for protecting our students, rather than a procedure and you get to step maybe 47 and you realize, oh, this doesn't apply, what should I be doing? The goals and objectives should make that clear. And as I mentioned earlier, it's role-based, so we want to provide guidance for everybody, including parents, teachers, obviously staff. Maintenance staff need to have a clear understanding of what their role is, and everybody who's in the school, even visitors, need to know what is expected of them in a case of emergency. And there is one plan, as we like to say, one plan to rule them all. This would be a plan, emergency operations plan for all drills. The emergency operations plan would be activated for snow days when we close school, when we need to respond to a crisis, whatever that crisis may be, whether it has psychological effects or a fire. And it would even be for major events, like football games, graduation, major events where there are large quantities of people where we need to be prepared to respond to an emergency. And maybe after-school activities where it might not necessarily be clear with all of the partners that we have using our facilities, on-site or off-site, and making sure that they know what our procedures are to keep our students and anybody who's on our campus safe. And of course, this is bolstered by communications improvements. We're looking at automating our alerting systems. We've had Messenger for years that provides email, but we want to bolster that with text communications, with phone communications that are readily available, and parents could even choose how they prefer to be communicated with, and other community members might choose how they're communicated with in events of emergency, or just normal notifications that we want to send home from the school. So we're be implementing some new systems this fall, and also integrating other alert systems together, looking at things like panic buttons, integrating our public address systems with our phone systems so that we could communicate with our schools at a moment's notice from anywhere, any location, and making sure that all communications are simplified and robust enough so that they can survive failure, and that they're redundant so we can rely on other systems when there might be certain circumstances where one system may fail. And that is a nutshell of the plan. I would entertain any questions that you might have at this time.
Go ahead. I have a few, but I'm kind of, I'll see where you guys are going.
I know this is a working plan.
It is a
It's
working
actually an ever-evolving plan, because things shift and change daily, not monthly and all that. I've worked with this plan in the past, and we have an EOC, at Emergency Operations Center, where it all funnels into, and which I'm sure you'll be linked into, so you're coordinating your events with the police, fire, and any other entities that might, as the others that might be involved. When you perceive maybe running a drill, or maybe trying to put it into its paces, or mock something up, or is that still kind of all? I know it's all in the plan.
It's still fluid, and we're fundamentally changing some of the structures by which we would respond to a plan. So we have to do training, but we're going to start implementing the plan this year with the drills that we conduct. And as you might have noticed or heard, the governor signed into law a new requirement that we do lockdown drills in our schools each year, and that those lockdown drills be done in conjunction with representatives from the local police department. So that in part will be practiced, the plan will be practiced with police there too. So it will be, as you said, it is an evolving document. Historically, we've updated it, but I wouldn't say it goes through significant transformations or evolutions over time, and we see that happening now and in the future.
I assume when you brought up like snow days as being one of the points, that it would also include other like severe rain, weather. Does it also, is it part of the plan, like any type of like community catastrophe, like something happened to the bridge or something like that as well? Would those be encompassed as well?
Yeah, it definitely includes disasters that other agencies might need our resources for, particularly our buildings. Our buildings often operate as areas of refuge or shelter for other emergency operations plans in the community. So it would definitely include components that help us share resources with other agencies when the disaster wasn't our own, wasn't directly related to us.
When we run the drills and we integrate with the other agencies such as police and fire, do we have to have a budget for that? Are we responsible for their time and their resources that they're using in these drills, or is that something we share with them? Is that not
We
yet
don't
clear?
have a budget for that. A lot of that stuff is prescribed by law, so we really don't actually have much of a choice. So we haven't run into any issues where we would have to budget for training as with other agencies. We certainly have to budget for training our own staff, but not necessarily training with other
Are we
agencies.
responsible though for the cost incurred by those other agencies when they are helping us in these drills?
We are not.
I'm going to go to another level of buildings themselves here in the district, our own buildings. Each building, if there's something happens, does each building have like a command person that would be kind of in charge if it's happening outside, but it's going to that building? So each building has a kind of a routine of who's here, is that all in the plan also?
That's part of the ICS, the incident command structure that I alluded to, and I didn't go into any detail.
I know, I'm just wanting to make sure.
That's what ICS does, is identify who's in charge and what.
Okay.
Any other questions?
So we will have our closed session later this evening where we can talk about some of the more confidential details of the plan with the board.
Okay, sounds good, thanks. And Dr. Hutchins is going to lead us in a discussion regarding the policy committee's work.
Thank you. So as a part of the board agenda, if you're following along in the agenda, this section that Tony just presented under and that I'm about to present is under for discussion, which means there's no action to follow at this time on the presentations that we're doing. Sometimes we will have another agenda item number 6 would be for action, where we would do a presentation like this and then the board would be taking action after our presentation. We didn't have any of those tonight, but for those of you that are, now that we have some visitors to our board meeting, we're happy to have you here and we want to explain how we do business. So I'm going to talk about policy. I have a policy discussion to have with the board, but I won't be asking for any action. I have a cover sheet that goes with the report, so that's included in the board packet, and I have two things that I want to talk to you about. The first one is policy 2150, which is the policy that says that you have to have a policy committee. So the committee met for the first time last Wednesday. Our new committee for this school year met for the first time last Wednesday, and we had a discussion, and we'll review the minutes, and those will be posted. Those will be approved at the next board meeting 1 month from now, after the policy committee gets a chance to review them. So the meetings are open to the public. We have 2 board members, that would be John and Sue, that are regularly assigned to attend those meetings, but they're committees of the whole, which mean any board member can come. So they are posted ahead of time. They're special meetings, and visitors are welcome. And at that last committee meeting, we talked about how it was the basics of a policy committee, where we talked about how we would get items on the agenda, how we get policies to be reviewed, who could suggest a policy to be reviewed, what's the review cycle for policies. So we went over some business like that. And I'll just share a little bit of that with you. There are basically 4 different agenda items at our policy committee. So the policy committee, that's our guidebook as the district. So here's the official rules of our district. And so one of the things that we could do at a policy committee meeting is take a bigger chunk of policies, because they don't always act in isolation. So the one that we selected for the first part of this year is to talk about educational philosophy. And there's many policies that go into that. And so that's one type of agenda item, and that particular discussion will be very in-depth. So it will involve focus groups of community members, it will involve feedback from all of our partners, it will involve, it'll be very well communicated that we're looking at this group of policies just to guide us in our work. So it's really, these are board direction type policies, where the board would be saying, this is the direction we want the administration to take this district. So that's one type of policy. one type of discussion that we have at that policy committee meeting. Again, lots of feedback and communication for those policy type discussions. The next type of policy that we'll be reviewing at these committees are called, we call them policies in action. So this would be a specific policy where we take, maybe there's something that the building administrator says that here's this policy, but it's outdated, we don't, this isn't, really doesn't, they have some suggestions about how we might want to update that policy, or a community member might say, hey, we would like you to look at this particular policy again, so the policy committee would do that. We would tell a story about that policy, why is it time to be reviewed, who brought it to our attention, here's some things that we're trying to get out of that policy, here's how it could work for us, and we would look at different options. We'd bring it to the board, and the board would read the policy at a first reading. We'd get your feedback, and then we'd go back to the policy committee, talk about the feedback, and then bring it back for final approval. So that's generally a 2-meeting kind of a policy, and there's an example that we're doing for first reading next. The third type would be compliance. So the laws change, we heard about a couple of them, and we have to update our policy manual to reflect the changes in the law. So there were 2 of them that you guys approved earlier. One of them was a change, it was on the consent agenda because there really isn't a whole lot of discussion. You read it, but it is the law, so we're really not going to say no to those. So it was a change in a definition in the gift ban policy about who is a prohibited source, and also we're required to review our bullying policy, and so they reread that, and we will update the state to say, yep, we reread that, we do have a policy that is implemented, and we do monitor that it is being implemented. So those generally will appear on the consent agenda. And then the last thing the policy committee does is after we have this direction, then sometimes we have administrative procedures that, okay, we have a policy, how does this work in action? Like, what are the steps we have to take to make sure we're compliant? For example, the food policy, what does everybody have to do? The building principal needs to do this, the teachers need to do this, the parents need to know this is the communication. And those are just talked about at the policy meeting, they're not official policies, so they review procedures and exhibits at the meeting. So finally, the one policy that came to the board for you guys for your first reading tonight is policy 2120, which is board member development. So as board members, we know that you come with a variety of experiences and backgrounds, and that the state does mandate some training so that you can give us good guidance and understand your roles and how to best lead this school district. And so this policy is the recommendation we're making is that we incorporate the changes in the law that mandate this training into our policy. So for example, all the board members here have to do mandatory training. They have to have professional development. Open Meetings Act is one of the training, the Performance Evaluation Reform Act, PARA, they have to have training for that, and 4 other hours of professional development. And then we post that training online. We're just finishing up this, since we have a newer board, we all have a lot of training to update, so that's going online as well, so you could see all the training that they've done. This policy then would really speaks to the fact that we do have to engage in this professional development. One of the great opportunities that you have as a board, you belong to the Illinois Association of School Boards, and they provide the training for you in a variety of formats. And the most comprehensive format is the conference that they hold annually in November. And so this board, the recommendation from the policy committee would be that we would honor our training and send board members to that conference. That's the November conference. It's called the III Conference because it's held in conjunction with the IASCO, Illinois School Business Officials, and the IASA School Administrators. So the recommended changes here are just to have it in policy so people know that that's part of your job. Your unpaid job that you have is to be trained in what you do and to help you make the best decisions that you can. So this is your first reading, and so the policy committee would like to hear your feedback so we can go back and edit it. So what feedback do you have about these changes?
Any comments on them or questions?
I think it's more comments, right?
please.
As you reiterated, I know last year a lot of school boards took a lot of grief over the conference and that, but I've been able to attend that for the last couple of years. Friday sessions in which Fridays, so I take a day off of work and take a vacation day and go down there and go to a full-day seminar who Kathy and I have attended. We were at that one last year, yeah. And they're very, very informative. And plus, I mean, they're two-fold day. Obviously, we're mandated now to do it, but also they bring us in line with what's going on and what's required of us as a school board member. It's you know, it's more than just, I guess, sitting here a couple times a month and listen to everyone talk. We have required education, continuing education that we have to have. There's a lot of labor law involved. There's a lot of, as you mentioned, the policies are constantly changing. We get updated on a lot of that to know what's coming down the pipe, because we also want to know how it's going to affect then our budget. If it's something down the road that's going to affect us budgetarily, it's nice not to get blindsided by that. And of course, with the Open Meetings Act, we have to be in compliant with all that. So it's more than just, I mean, it's a great opportunity to get that done. And actually, during that time, meet with other school board members from other districts and hear what's going on in their district. And you know, it's, as anything, colleagues and associates, it's best way to learn is to talk to them. And through the time and minutes we have in between sessions or whatever, it's great to ask questions and talk to them or hear their questions. And some of their issues are very much the same as what we're facing today. And some of them, actually, I usually walk away with our heads held pretty high, and I think we're pretty good in compliance issues and also the way we operate. I think it's a great, pretty happy with the way our board is and how well our school is functioning. So it's an opportunity to do a little posting. But anyway, I just thought I'd throw that comment in there. Plus, it's mandatory.
Anyone else?
Sorry.
You said it,
the other thing I wanted to mention, sorry, is that all our policy, because I was on the policy committee the last couple of years, so I'm tossing out. We were able to get that all put on electronically, okay? I just brought in tonight my 3 binders that filled a bag this big to Kathy for shred all the paper copies of the policy as I've had over the last 2 years because it's all electronic. There's no reason for me to have that stuffed in the basement corner space. My wife would say, get it out of here if you don't need it. But anyway, it's all electronically, and you just go on our website. And I'm not very good at it, but I can find that. Under the board issue at the bottom, it's board policy, tap on it, and you can see the basic 10 different categories, and from there just expand on. It's a wonderful.
Fully available to the public.
Oh yeah, available to everybody. Yeah, you can't sleep at night, there's plenty of stuff to read. So it is available. So when, you know, that's an unbelievable method of transparency, I think. I mean, our policy's right out there for you to read, and if, you know, you have an issue with it, you know, there's an opportunity to take it for the board and say, you know, or be explained, what is this policy? Yeah, policy members are happy to clarify this, right? But anyway, I just wanted to mention that, being online, because it is awesome.
Yeah.
It was a lot of hard work. We had a couple interns do that one summer. A lot of hard work. A lot of hours. Tony can attest to that.
To have those interns
Way to
do
go,
that.
Greg.
I didn't do it.
No.
Tony.
A lot of hard work.
But I mean, it's a great job. It's really a great
It's
thing. I
very
use it a
easy
lot.
to search.
Oh, it is.
Very
Yeah, it is.
user-friendly.
And it really kind of breaks it down into how our policy's set up. It's set up. It's right there in, I guess, the 10 sections, and each one you click on, it expands and goes down into the talks about and all those things. So it's really kind of cool. You did a good job with it.
Thank you. I can't take credit for it, but
It was the intern.
you'll take credit.
Carl, the unpaid intern.
Okay. Anything else?
No,
Any
I'm
other
done,
comments?
sorry.
Are you sure?
Yes. Shut up now.
Then I would like to entertain comments from our student ambassadors tonight.
Do we have to go up or can we just stay here?
You can just stay there.
Okay. I guess I'll start. It's a lot of firsts this week because it's second week of school, so sports starting up. So boys varsity soccer game, first one was today. First girls cross country meet is Friday. Woo, anybody? First volleyball game, obviously girls volleyball game. Freshman I think is today, and then varsity is to follow the rest of the week, I believe. Club meetings are starting all this week, so students have like a big long list in the hallway that they can look at. And open house will be 6:30 to 8 o'clock this Thursday at BHS, so parents can come meet the teachers, and I highly recommend it. And from last meeting that I wasn't able to be at, Wednesday, May 21st at 7 o'clock at NIU will be graduation. Really excited. I am so excited. I am like V for victory right now.
Thank you to me. Okay, so I'm going to start off with the first football game. Will be this Friday at 7 o'clock. We've been working hard all summer, and I don't think we could be any more prepared even if we wanted to. So we're ready to go, and it's going to be a great game. Auditions for Shrek the Musical were this past week, and that sounds incredible. I don't know how they're going to do that, but I know they got the facility too, and it's something I'm definitely going to go see. I think that's a great project for our arts department. The BHS cheer team has their annual car wash this Saturday from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. in the Main Street lot, and that helps them pay for the competitions and the things they compete in over the season, and it's a huge part of their funding. They also partnered up with the football team recently. Every football player is going to get a cheerleader buddy that on game day will give them a snack or a motivational note, and in turn, you're going to wear our opposite jerseys, which, you know, seems like a pretty good trade to me.
I was gonna say, so they get to wear your jersey and they give you stuff. And they give you stuff.
Yeah.
You guys worked that pretty well.
After yeah. On a slightly more serious note, September 16th, Rachel's Challenge starts, and I think that's a good thing that we're bringing into our school, because even if you just convince one student to have a little more kindness or a little more compassion, the goal is to start a chain reaction of if one kid feels good, he can make another kid feel good. He or she can start a whole butterfly effect of just people doing nicer things for each other. I know if I'm having a bad day and somebody, you know, it could be something as small as, hey, nice, you know, shot in gym class or cool shirt, you know, and you feel better about yourself, and right, you pass that on because that's a good feeling to have. To finish off, homecoming week is September 23rd and 27th. The homecoming game will be on that Friday, and the dance will follow the next day. I know everybody's looking forward to that. I love being in the parade, and it's a huge event for our town, and I know everybody's looking forward to it.
Sorry, I was just marking my calendar for homecoming. Comments from the administration.
I will keep it brief. I just wanted to say that it was, I will echo what Tony said, it was a relatively smooth start, and I do have to say that we had over 6,300 students show up, and thanks to the 700 staff members who were able, everybody did their part and got those students. It really is a team effort to get everybody to the buildings on time, into the classrooms, where they need to be, and holding their hands when they don't know where to go. And it really was 100% of the people gave 100% effort, and it was very smooth. One of the stats I heard was that the buses ran 98% on time on the very first day of school, which is a great thing to celebrate because we want to start the kids off with that positive experience and making sure that they are where they need to be. So thank you to all the staff members that helped the start of the year be so successful.
Board members, we'll start down and see. John, would you like to go first?
Okay, get to my notes. So bear with me here. First, I would like to go back to the July 23rd school board meeting. I arrived late due to some plane delays from Europe and didn't think the meeting would be over so quickly. I guess it was in record time. Well, I missed some votes, and I wanted to go on the record for the following. With regards to adopting and approving of the school board minutes, I would have voted yes. And on the athletic vision plan for the high school, I believe in having a strong vision for all plans, curriculum and extracurricular. It doesn't mean we are going to spend, but we need to have a foundation for the future. When updates or new projects are warranted for any project related to learning, life skills, etc. So I would have voted yes on this vision. And it is a vision. Finally, a yes vote to get the budget out for the citizens to explore and look over. And I wanted to thank everyone who made the presentations and answered all my questions before and after the July 23rd board meeting. Second, I want to thank Lou for welcoming me into the Hooverwood family as the new liaison person from the board. Lou has given me some dates, and he would like me to attend to get a good look at what Hooverwood is doing. I attended the Hooverwood chat forum with parents on August 12th. About 20 to 25 parents attended. And the PTO ice cream social on Friday, August 16th, which was well attended as the students brought in their supplies and met their teachers. Then the teachers served ice cream to all, and yes, they even put me to work helping at the PBIS booth. I attended the first day of school at Hooverwood along with attending the PBIS assembly later that same day. Seeing all the returning kids and first-timers entering school was with a lot of excitement and a few fears on some student faces as the parents dropped them off, but they are in good hands. Finally, Hooverwood has a nice new program called Watchdogs for fathers to help volunteer during the school hours. And I wanted to thank Raquel for featuring that in her program in your Friday newsletter. Third, it was wonderful participating in the open day ceremony for the new 2013-2014 school year. It was especially fun on my part that when it was over, I got to go home and not stay to work. That was fun. The assembly was short and to the point. Job well done, Lisa. And I can't forget to thank Tony for some help in the technical department. It was also fun attending the corn boil, seeing all the kids that participate in all the events and all the families and citizens that come out to support such a great cause. Fourth, I thought we had a good discussion at my first budget workshop. I am still trying to make sure I have everything in order and figuring out all the details on the budget process. I will always want to make sure we have a balanced budget with some money in reserve for emergency issues if they come up. So nice job, Chris, on the presentation, answering all my questions and concerns. Fifth, I went to my first policy committee with Sue, Tina, and Kathy. Thought everything went well, and Lisa did a great job as the facilitator. And I also wanted to thank Brad for some extra thoughts on the policy-making procedures as well. Sixth, I would like to wish Megan and Jake a successful school year as students first, then as school board ambassadors. Please keep your eyes and ears open and discuss things with your fellow students and bring those back to us. Finally, taking a page out of my fellow board member Greg, it is always good to hear from the citizens about questions and concerns they have. Like Greg always says, it is hard for us just to sit here and listen just because we cannot answer back, but we do value everyone's input. It helps us make a sound decision. As I have said right from the beginning when I got this job, it is okay to agree to disagree in a respectful way. And I will end with this. I would like to wish the entire staff of District 101, parents, guardians, and students a great and successful school year working together. Thank you.
Jen? Everyone's like,
If I don't write stuff down, I'm in trouble. I gotta write it down. That's just me. Get used to it. Yeah, I gotta write it down.
I know. So apparently, John, now I have to make you go last all the time.
That's fine. Make me last 3-minute limit.
Okay, well, and we've talked about not everyone has to make comments.
I don't have any comments. I'm glad to hear the school year has started off great. So congratulations to all of you who made that happen.
I think I've said enough. Good luck to everyone.
I did write a few things down. John said it so eloquently, though. It's hard to top that. But I would like to welcome all the students, staff, faculty, administration, everyone back. Hope everyone has a wonderful year. I did have a wonderful first day as a parent of a 6th grader going to middle school for the first time, it was a little distressing. I was a little nervous. But when I saw Tony at AGS and he was checking his email and he's like, no problems, the buses are running on time, I knew everything was going to be okay. Because it was like, okay, he got there all right. The bus got across the bridge, we're fine, he'll be home. Also, the corn boil on Friday night, if anybody was there, it was a phenomenal evening. I had never been, this was our first year going. It was so much fun, and I just want to thank the boosters, everyone for putting on such a great time. I'm trying to think. Greg, where were you?
Hey, there.
You were there? Okay, so we were all there.
I finally got to eat some corn.
Okay, I was going to say, like, I think you were the only one who didn't see.
Some of us went to tables.
Yes,
some
I
of us
saw,
just
okay, admit, I was not working, but I did eat corn. So, 120 dozen ears of corn were sold. That's what I heard. Great community event, so it was a lot of fun. And lastly, I would like to thank Joanne for a great tour of the school, and I really look forward to working with the high school as a liaison this year. So, great start to the school year.
Great. I'll make it short and sweet. Raquel, I like your Friday features. It gives us a great insight to the dutiful work and so much that these great employees and volunteers put into our school district. So it's wonderful to get a glimpse into that, and I look forward to more of them. It's excellent to hear about the great smooth start of the school year. I mean, anytime you try to herd 6,300 cats, I'm sure it's pretty crazy, and the 700 staff members did a great job with that. I hope we live up to the expectations of the new staff members that have joined us this year at Batavia. I was at the corn boil as well. 2 recommendations: shorter lines, more corn. Just saying. And 2 last pieces. It was great to see such a citizen turnout today. It reminded me of one of the things I said when I was running for this board, that you have to want to learn to be on this board. And just because we sit up here, we don't know it all. We're continuing to learn. We're always learning, always growing, as our motto is here. And to get that community input is very valuable to us. We may not agree with everything, we may not like to hear everything, but we definitely absorb it all. And we want to do what's best for the majority of our majority of our shareholders and stakeholders, and as well as all the students. And then lastly, I would maybe want to bring a point of context with the field plan. We've had a review of the citizens. Obviously, we know what we're looking at as a board and administration. I'd love to get an input maybe from the student ambassadors to get a feel for what the students actually think about this, because they're the ones that are learning and benefiting from this, in the future, and to get their opinions on it as well. Next time.
I'd just like to thank all the citizens for bringing so many great, valuable information that I could never have gotten all together myself about turf and the arts and music. Obviously, I know the importance of arts and music and to making the whole child. I have a kinesthetic learner myself. If she couldn't get up and walk around, she would probably have no hair left on her head. And I also like to say that she is not an observant child, and she observed how incredibly wonderful the new Rotolo track is. And so I would just like to say that when my non-observant child tells me how wonderful her facility is, that tells me it must be extra special. I'd also like to thank the administration. I thought it was very nice. I did not get a chance to go over to HC Storm on the first day because I chose to play my role as a Grace McWayne parent, and I actually saw Steve in the parking lot. I thought that was very nice that you all filtered out to the different buildings. I think it really brings administration into the community and into the buildings, and you actually see what the principals and the staff are dealing with on that first day, especially at the elementary level, when you have so many parents who don't necessarily want to let go of their children, and so many staff members that are so caring and so ready to take those children in. So I'd like to thank you all for that. I think you guys did a wonderful job. I think you did a wonderful job with the food service, the new food service, and the busing situation. I haven't heard any complaints. I also wanted to thank the Booster Club for a wonderful corn boil. I've attended the corn boil for many, many years, but I can say that my children, as they've grown older,
do enjoy the ability to run on the football field at age 10, because that's the only time that he'll probably ever get on that football field. And also, I just want to wish all the fall sports at both Rotolo and at Batavia High School the best of luck. I know you will do us proud.
Well, it sounds like we're winding down, but we're really not. We are going into closed session to discuss security procedures and the use of personnel and equipment to respond to an actual, a threatened, or a reasonably potential danger to the safety of employees, students, staff, the public, or public property. So do I have a motion to enter into closed session? And I wanted to comment that there is no action to follow our closed session. Moved by Locke, second by Instano. Kathy, could you call the roll?
Blakely.
Yes.
Gaspar.
Yes.
Hodge.
Yes.
Lozano.
Yes.
Locke.
Yes.
Yes.
Dremel.
Yes. Adjourn to closed session.